Chapter 556. Misaka Mikoto and Medusa had rushed out from underground and started fighting. However, they had forgotten that Gohan was underground. Perhaps Misaka Mikoto had intentionally forgotten about Gohan so that Gohan would not be affected by the shockwaves from their battle. Although Gohan was extremely intelligent and managed to kill Loki with his mouth, now that he was trapped underground, Gohan could not think of a way to quickly return to the surface. At that time, Gohan was more than 100 meters underground. The only entrance was a hole that Misaka Mikoto had forcefully melted open. It was as slippery as a well, and it was impossible to climb out of it. The only way out was to insert a sword into the alloy on both ends and slowly climb up. Gohan gave it a try. The alloy wall was not fake. It was made of real material. Whether it was the heavenly sword, Doyu, or Chinpin, it was extremely difficult for them to insert their swords into the alloy wall. As for the victory sword, it would be easier if Gohan was able to synchronize with it. Unfortunately, if Gohan was able to synchronize with the victory sword, he would be able to fly out of the hole. Forget it. Gohan was not someone who gave up easily. He pulled out the Heaven-Reliant sword and Doyu sword. Although it was going to take a lot of effort, he would still be able to climb out of the hole. Needless to say, using the Heaven-Reliant sword was quite taxing. Gohan had to exert a tremendous amount of strength in order to stab the Heaven-Reliant sword a little. Judging by the rate at which the Heaven-Reliant sword was going, Gohan would need at least 3 to 4 hours before he could crawl out from the hole. "Good disciple, why are you here?" At that time, Gohan suddenly heard a voice that sounded like it came from heaven. Gohan turned around and was surprised to see Lu Lei standing beside him. "Master, why are you here?" Gohan pulled out the Heaven-Reliant sword and knelt in front of Lu Lei. "Your disciple has been rude. Your disciple greets Master." Good. It's great that you're alright. That's great." Lu Lei was so excited that the wrinkles on his old face kept shaking. He held Gohan's arms and said, "Good disciple, I sensed the mark on your body as soon as I entered Yuzhong City. I tore open the void to find you." "Master, disciple has troubled Master." Gohan was also very touched. Let's cut to the chase. "Good disciple, why are you here? What is this place? Why hasn't Master come?" Lu Lei scanned his surroundings and realized that he didn't recognize this place at all. He had never been here before. This was strange. There was actually a place in Yuzhong City that Lu Lei had never been to. "Master, this is the core of our Yuzhong City, the core control room of the super-dimensional wall system," Gohan said with a bitter smile. "What? You said that this is the core control room of the super-dimensional wall system?" Lu Lei's eyes widened like lanterns. Obviously, this had shocked him. But soon, Lu Lei began to search his memory of the core control room. "Yes, now that you mention it, I remember that when I first became the Sword Pavilion Master, I saw the information and pictures of this place. Yes, this is the core control room of the super-dimensional wall system. I didn't expect us Master and Disciple to meet in such a place. I've never been here since I was born in Yuzhong City," Lu Lei said with a sigh. "Before I became a Sword Immortal, I didn't have the right to come here. Now that I've become a Sword Immortal, I have no interest in coming here. If I hadn't come to find you today, I probably wouldn't have come to this place in this lifetime." "Master, please don't laugh at me," Gohan said with a smile. "Never mind, let's not talk about this. Let me ask you, why are you here? Also, what's the situation in Yuzhong City? Why hasn't Rocky triggered the creation divinity yet? Where is he now?" Lu Lei asked a lot of questions. "Master, Rocky is dead and so is his daughter. The creation divinity is now in the hands of Medusa. Sigh, my master, this matter can't be explained in a few words. You only need to know that as long as Medusa is killed, Yuzhong City will be at peace." Gohan originally wanted to tell him the whole process, but he realized that if he wanted to finish, it would take at least an hour. How could Gohan wait any longer? Good disciple, where is Medusa now? Isn't it just a U-level Yuan-ko? Even if there's only one of them, I, your master, will still be able to capture him, Lu Lei said heroically. Master, Medusa is out there now, fighting against the free Misaka Mikoto. Master, Sister Mikoto is on our side. She's the one who killed Rocky. You must help Sister Mikoto, Gohan said as he pulled Lu Lei's hand. Misaka Mikoto? Isn't she the cause of this great invasion? Why are they standing on our side now? Lu Lei looked at Gohan in confusion. When he saw Gohan's trusting expression, he could only nod. All right, your master will bring you up there to meet this Medusa. In the next second, Lu Lei pulled Gohan into the void door. The door opened and closed, bringing Gohan back to the surface. At that time, a large part of the core area that was originally in good condition had turned into ruins. Misaka Mikoto and Medusa were panting heavily in the sky. Medusa's 9 heads had reached their maximum size. However, all of them were charred black and emitted the smell of meat. It was obvious that Misaka Mikoto had electrocuted them quite severely. As for Misaka Mikoto, the right half of her arm had turned to stone. She could only use her left arm to fight. Looks like I came at the right time. Zhan Long, I'll have to trouble you again. The dragon-slaying sword in Lu Lei's hand was tossed aside. This housewife sword maiden, the dragon-slayer empress, who Gohan had seen once before, was still wearing her signature housewife attire and a scarf around her waist. Old man, you finally came back. You still can't let go of this place. Zhan Long sighed as he looked at the ruins of Yuzhong City. All right, Zhan Long, hurry up and attack. Don't let Medusa escape. I still want to go home for dinner. Old man Lu Lei urged. Lu Lei was also an old immortal sword wielder. Queen Zhan Long's ability was not inferior to the universe rank Yuan-ko. After Queen Zhan Long joined the battle, Medusa, who was originally on par with Misaka Mikoto, was immediately surrounded and beaten up. There were no twists in the plot. Faced with 2 enemies, Medusa was easily defeated. First, one of her heads was cut off by Zhan Long. Then, she was electrocuted by Misaka Mikoto until her entire body was numb. Her divine power was depleted, and she fell from the sky, crashing onto the ground. Lu Lei's sword was pressed against her neck. Zhan Long, send her back to her original world. After the humans defeated Yuan-ko, they did not capture or imprison people. They were all killed and sent into the dimensional vortex. Therefore, when Lu Lei saw that Medusa had lost her ability to fight, he did not hesitate and ordered Zhan Long to kill Medusa. Stop! Just as Zhan Long was about to attack, Misaka Mikoto landed. She looked at the unfamiliar Lu Lei and then at Gohan. Sister Mikoto, let me introduce you. This is my master, Cloudy Sword Celestial, Lord Lu Lei. After Gohan introduced Lu Lei, he immediately introduced Misaka Mikoto to Lu Lei. Master, this is Misaka Mikoto. She's a free person. She's the one who killed Loki and Hela. I killed both of them? It's not Gohan. Misaka Mikoto wanted to deny it when she heard Gohan's words. However, when she saw Gohan winking at her, she swallowed her words. Thank you, Master Super Railgun. On behalf of the 40 million people of Yuzhong City, I thank Misaka Mikoto for her kindness. Lu Lei first bowed to Misaka Mikoto. However, he immediately said rudely, However, Misaka Mikoto, I must kill Yuan-ko. I can't let the blood of Yuzhong City be shed in vain. Zhan Long, attack. After that, Lu Lei ordered Zhan Long to kill Medusa again. No way. Misaka Mikoto grabbed Zhan Long's wrist. Mr. Lu Lei, I spent most of my energy on this Medusa. She's considered a defeated opponent. Shouldn't I be the one to deal with her? Mr. Lu Lei, Medusa has promised me that she will return to Freedom City with me after this battle. She will be a free person and will not participate in the battle between humans and Yuan-ko. Moreover, throughout the battle, Medusa did not directly attack humans. The ones who killed humans were Odin's minions. Please spare her life, Mr. Lu Lei. It seemed like Misaka Mikoto was determined to protect Medusa's life. She didn't kill humans? Lu Lei hesitated when he saw Misaka Mikoto, the person who killed Loki and Hela, trying to protect Medusa's life. Gohan, let me ask you. Does Medusa have Yuzhong City's blood on her hands? Master, I don't know. Gohan shook his head. To be honest, I haven't seen Medusa kill a single human along the way. All right, then ask all the sword bearers and see if any of them have seen Medusa kill before. Lu Lei said again. Gohan immediately raised this question in the public channel. After a long time, no swordsman came out to say that he had seen Medusa kill people. It seemed that Medusa really had not killed any humans in Yuzhong City. Ah, you hypocritical humans. If you want to kill, do as you please. Don't insult me like this. Let me tell you, I've killed many Yuzhong City people along the way. Medusa felt deeply humiliated when she saw Gohan constantly asking if he had seen her kill people. She immediately admitted to killing people. Mr. Lu Lei, Medusa was originally a human. She was only humiliated by Poseidon and became like this. Since she's so pitiful, let me bring her back to Freedom City and let her live a free life. Misaka Mikoto immediately said. Lu Lei was in a dilemma. If Loki and Hela were really killed by Misaka Mikoto, then Misaka Mikoto would be Yuzhong City's biggest benefactor. Lu Lei could not disrespect Misaka Mikoto. Say it, Gohan. In the end, Lu Lei kicked the ball to Gohan's court. Do you think Medusa should be killed? Chapter 557. He deserves to be killed. Gohan answered without hesitation. Since ancient times, Yuan Ko has never shown mercy when it comes to killing humans. Have they ever felt pity for the human race? Master, I've seen too many of my people die by Yuan Ko's hands along the way. Their flesh and blood have become Yuan Ko's snack. He'll eat them when he's hungry, when he's craving, and when he's bored, he'll eat them. Master, Yuan Ko deserves to be killed. One less Medusa means that many more of my people will die in the future. Medusa deserves to be killed. Gohan said bluntly. Gohan, you? Misaka Mikoto was furious when she heard Gohan's answer. Medusa is also a pitiful person. She's been harmed by you stinky men. If you want to kill someone, you should kill Poseidon. Medusa is just a pitiful person. Moreover, she's already promised to be a free being. She won't harm human lives anymore. Sister Mikoto, do you really think that Medusa is willing to be a free being? Gohan bowed to Misaka Mikoto. Medusa's killing intent is deep in her bones. Just like a heavy smoker and a gambling addict, she's used to killing to solve her problems. Moreover, there's no guarantee that your city will be completely free of filth. If you let her go and she escapes, she'll definitely hold a grudge against Yuzhong. We must kill Yuan Ko. We can't let him live. Haha. I didn't expect my opponent to plead for mercy on my behalf. Medusa suddenly laughed when she heard Gohan and Misaka Mikoto's argument. She said sternly, Kill me, kill me. As long as you don't kill me, I'll fight Yuzhong City forever. I'll never compromise. Sister Mikoto, did you hear that? Since she said that, we really can't let her live. Gohan said coldly. No, if you want to kill her, you'll have to kill me first. Otherwise, I won't let you hurt her. Misaka Mikoto was stubborn and insisted on protecting Medusa's life. Seeing that Gohan and Misaka Mikoto were about to quarrel with each other, Lu Lei played the role of a peacemaker. Alright, stop fighting. How about this? Medusa can live, but she can't live as a U-level Yuan Ko. Let her live as an ordinary person in Yuzhong City. Ordinary people? Mr. Lu Lei, what do you mean? Misaka Mikoto was confused. It's very simple. I don't care how much Medusa hates us humans. As long as she has no abilities, she won't be a threat. Ms. Misaka, I'll extract the godhead from her body and hand it over to you for safekeeping. You can bring her godhead to Freedom City and suppress it there forever. That way, Medusa will at most be a normal person with some strength. She won't be a threat, and she'll be able to live and experience the life of a normal person. Isn't that the best of both worlds? What? You vicious human, you're going to suppress my godhead forever. Medusa began to struggle when she heard Lu Lei's words. For Medusa, being separated from her godhead and being suppressed in Freedom City forever was a very painful thing. Just as Lu Lei said, she, Medusa, would at most be a mortal with some strength. It was similar to when the Egyptian deities first started out. In the Besi's temple, the 3 deities' godheads were suppressed in the coffin. Besi's and the other 2 deities turned into animals, and their abilities were at the level of normal animals. An ordinary ancient sword wielder would be able to kill them. Later, when I Ching imprisoned them in the trial formation again, he only sealed their godheads, but the godheads were still in their bodies. That way, they could still unleash the strength of a soul class Yuan Ko. Therefore, to completely deprive a soul class Yuan Ko or a deity Yuan Ko of their powers, they had to separate their godheads from their bodies and suppress them forever. That way, they could only be mortals for the rest of their lives. For people like Medusa, losing their powers and being mortals for the rest of their lives was undoubtedly more painful than being killed. Oh no, not mortals for the rest of their lives, but mortals for the rest of their lives. After all, their bodies were still the bodies of deities. As long as their godheads did not truly vanish, they would never die. Ms. Misaka, you've seen how much Medusa hates Yuzhong City. Lu Lei used his sword aura to suppress Medusa to the ground. Now there are only 2 options. Either I kill her or you take her godhead away. Make your decision. Misaka Mikoto thought about it and could only nod. Alright, but let's change the method. Her godhead will be suppressed here, and I'll take her away. I'm afraid that you'll torture her here. Alright, that's settled. With just a few words, the fate of the universe-level Yuan Ko Medusa was decided. When Lu Lei was about to take out Medusa's godhead, a problem arose. Lu Lei could not find the location of Medusa's godhead. As he wanted to keep Medusa alive, he could not ignore Medusa's body and poke around like Gohan when he took out Gila's godhead. He had to find the right location first. Maybe it's one of her 9 snake heads. She won't die even if you cut them all off. Humans don't need hair like that, Gohan suggested. Therefore, the dragon-slaying sword was very straightforward. In an instant, Medusa's snake heads were cut off one after another. Every time a snake head was cut off, Medusa would let out a deafening howl as if her heart and liver had been cut off. Her eyes revealed a monstrous hatred. Everyone, including Misaka Mikoto, had become the target of her deep hatred. Disciple, why do I feel that even if she becomes a mortal, she'll still become a scourge to us humans? Looking at her eyes makes me feel a chill in my bones. Lu Lei whispered to Gohan through his personal terminal. Master, don't worry. As long as her godhead is suppressed, Medusa won't be able to make a comeback. Gohan comforted Lu Lei. I hope so. Seeing that Medusa's 9th snake head was also cut off, Medusa was in complete despair. She suddenly laughed strangely and glared at Lu Lei. A golden figurine of Medusa flew out of her left eye. It turned out that Medusa's godhead was always in her left eye. She actually took the initiative to light it up. Disciple, watch how Master is going to suppress this godhead, Lu Lei said as sword aura gathered in his palm. He was about to wrap around Medusa's godhead. At that moment, Medusa's godhead suddenly began to expand. Oh no, Medusa is going to self-destruct her godhead. Misaka Mikoto screamed out of the blue and immediately appeared next to Gohan. She hugged Gohan's waist and disappeared. They reappeared a kilometer away from where they were. Disciple, Master will bring you out of here. Lu Lei also wanted to bring Gohan away. However, when he stretched out his hand, he realized that Gohan was already gone. He muttered, F***CK. Why is this super railgun faster than me? After playing for 0.5 seconds, he appeared next to Gohan and Misaka Mikoto. Once the Godhead began to expand on its own, it meant that Yuan Ko was ready to self-destruct her Godhead in an attempt to injure both sides. Even Misaka Mikoto and Liu Lei would be seriously injured if they stood directly within the explosion range of the Godhead. Gohan would probably turn into ashes immediately. That was why Misaka Mikoto and Liu Lei wanted to bring Gohan away immediately. Mystic Light Mirror. After a while, Zhan Long appeared and waved his hand, and Medusa's surveillance video appeared in front of Gohan. In the video, Medusa's Godhead had expanded to the size of a basketball. It was estimated that Medusa would disappear from this world forever in 1 or 2 seconds. It's a pity. We didn't want to kill her, but she actually committed suicide, Liu Lei said with a sigh. The self-destruction of a Godhead was an irreversible process. Once it was activated, even the gods themselves could not stop it. It's all your fault. You forced her to become a mortal. Misaka Mikoto was a little unhappy. She really wanted to save this poor woman. She was really too pitiful. When she was a mortal, she was bullied by the gods. When she was a god, she was forced by mortals. Her life was really too tragic. Sister Mikoto, we're humans and she's Yuan Ko. Whether I kill her or she kills me, it's a matter of course. If you hate me and don't want to talk to me anymore, then I have nothing to say. I can only blame this D***MN fate. Seeing that Misaka Mikoto was unhappy, Gohan was not very happy either. Therefore, he said that in a fit of pique. Do you think Before Misaka Mikoto could finish her sentence, Medusa's Godhead had expanded to its limit in the mystic light mirror. Medusa began to laugh foolishly as if she was laughing at her life. Alright, it was time for the turning point. Suddenly, a white lotus flew out of Medusa's mouth and swallowed Medusa's Godhead that was about to explode. That's the Creator's Godhead. I forgot to retrieve it from her. Gohan slapped his thigh. In order to gain Medusa's trust, he had given the Creator's Godhead to Medusa. Gohan thought that as long as there was no Imperial Seed, the Creator's Godhead would be useless. It did not matter if he gave it to Medusa. However, seeing the Creator's Godhead devouring Medusa's Godhead just like how it devoured Loki's Godhead, Gohan suddenly felt an infinite sense of danger. Master! Quickly banish that Creator's Godhead. Hurry up! Gohan quickly said to Liu Lei. Unfortunately, it was too late. The Creator's Godhead that had swallowed Medusa's Godhead suddenly swallowed Medusa's body. The snow-white lotus instantly turned into a pitch-black lotus. Then, the lotus turned into a cloud of black mist that flew into the sky and shrouded the entire core area. I'm back! I'm back! The black mist let out a shrill voice that sounded like a crow's caw. Alright, it seems like a powerful being has returned. Chapter 558. What the hell is this? Gohan looked at the black fog that he couldn't even see clearly. He had the urge to complain. After killing Loki and Medusa, why was there still a boss appearing? Moreover, looking at the way he appeared from the creation Godhead, he was definitely not a simple opponent. Master, do you know what this black fog is? Gohan asked Liu Lei. How would Master know what this thing is? Liu Lei rolled his eyes at Gohan. Aren't you very smart? Why don't you analyze the origin of this black fog? Then I'll analyze it. Gohan looked at the smoke that was still expanding in the air and guessed. This smoke is emitted from the creation Godhead. Obviously, this smoke should be related to the creation Godhead. I remember that the creation Godhead had already devoured Loki's and Medusa's Godheads. Could it be that Loki's soul has returned? No, that's impossible. As soon as Gohan said that, he overturned his previous guess and said, Loki is already dead. His body has been completely absorbed by the dimensional vortex. The dimensional vortex is something that can take away all traces of Yuan Ko's existence. Since Loki was taken away by the dimensional vortex, he can't be resurrected. Also, from the voice of that person just now, it sounded like a happy voice that was released after being imprisoned for thousands of years. It's definitely not an emotion that Loki would have, after being imprisoned for thousands of years. Oh right, the creation godhead was originally a Yuan Ko's godhead. Could it be that the consciousness of the creation godhead has awakened? Guhan came to a somewhat shocking conclusion. Good disciple, don't scare master. According to my guess, the original body of the creation godhead is Yuan Ko, who is 2 levels higher than the primordial era and an emperor sword wielder. If his consciousness is resurrected, how can Yuzhong City survive? Lu Lei shivered. If it was really the main body of the creation divine deity that had revived, then it would really be over. Just as Lu Lei and Guhan were discussing this, the black mist began to change again. Suddenly, countless strands of mist shot down from the sky like arrows. Not good. Iron Sand Formation. Misaka Mikoto activated her Iron Sand Formation to protect herself and Guhan when she saw the misty arrows raining down on them. Sigh. What should I do? Have you forgotten the traditional virtues of the Chinese people? Lu Lei was frustrated when he saw that Guhan and Misaka Mikoto were surrounded by the Iron Sand Formation while he was isolated outside. He had no choice but to form a sword or a barrier in front of him. Just as Guhan and the others were ready to face the rain of arrows, they were shocked to find that the rain of arrows formed by the black mist was not targeting them but the Yuan Ko in the core area. Lu Lei and Guhan were dumbfounded. Whether it was the mouse-level Yuan Ko or the nether-level Yuan Ko, none of them had the ability to resist the rain of arrows. They were pierced by the arrows and some of them even pierced through 2 or more Yuan Ko at once. These Yuan Ko were like skewered skewers, carried by the rain of arrows back into the sky and into the black mist. They were completely devoured by the mist. As the Yuan Qi was continuously sucked in, the black smoke became more and more condensed, smaller and smaller, gradually transforming into a physical form. Not good. The mist is absorbing Yuan Ko's power. He must be recovering his power. Guhan was immediately reminded of countless novels and mangas that he had imagined. After the big boss was sealed, it would start to devour its own kind and use the power of its own kind to recover its own power. That's right, that should be it. Lu Lei's expression was cold as he looked at the black mist that was becoming more and more solid. Guhan, it seems like your guess is correct. This is the true body of the creation godhood. He has awakened from his 1,000-year godhood state and is devouring his own kind to recover his strength. Master, we have to stop it. We can't let it recover its power. Otherwise, Yuzhong City will be finished, Guhan said anxiously. He could almost see the whole of Yuzhong City turning into a scorched land after the Creator's power was restored. We can't delay any longer. Lu Lei gritted his teeth. Ms. Misaka, I'll leave Guhan to you. Zhan Long, let's go destroy this black mist. After saying that, Lu Lei and the dragon-slaying sword beside him flew into the sky. Meanwhile, the body of the dragon-slayer empress continued to grow. In the end, she became a super-huge sword about 400 meters long. Lying horizontally in the sky, she fiercely slashed towards the fog. This is Queen Zhan's ultimate skill, Dragon Head Slash, Guhan exclaimed when he saw Queen Zhan's transformation. What's Dragon Head Slash? Misaka Mikoto asked in confusion. Dragon Head Slash is Queen Zhan's ultimate skill. Legend has it that Queen Zhan was originally a giant sword used by the Heavenly Court to slay dragons. As long as the dragon-slaying sword is unleashed, even the dragon kings of the 4 seas can only die under it. This 400-meter-long sword was the true body of Queen Zhan Long, and it was her strongest move. I didn't expect Master to use her strongest skill right off the bat. It seems like Master has no confidence in dealing with this black mist. Gohan said anxiously. He did not know if Queen Jean's ultimate skill would be able to destroy this black mist. You're saying that this is Queen Jean's real body? Misaka Mikoto recalled Lady Jean Long's casual attire and apron. She looked like a virtuous wife. Who would have thought that she would have such a huge sword in her hands? As they spoke, the dragon-slaying sword had already reached the edge of the black mist. Just as it was about to slice the black mist apart, a disdainful voice came from the black mist. Do you think you can hurt me with just the bones of the ancestral dragon? Let's talk about it when your supreme, venerable heavenly golden palace lord, the Jade Emperor, is here. Then, the dragon-slaying sword seemed to have been blocked by something. In an instant, it flew backwards and disintegrated in the sky. Finally, it turned back into the appearance of the dragon-slaying queen and crashed into Lu Lei's body, directly knocking Lu Lei back to Gohan's side. Master, are you all right? Gohan went up to help Lu Lei up. He saw Queen Jean lying on the ground, spitting out mouthful after mouthful of blood. Some broken organs could even be seen in the blood. It was obvious that this attack alone had seriously injured Queen Jean. Run, run. Jean Long finally spat out all the blood in her body. She immediately pulled Lu Lei and said, Run, we're definitely no match for this black mist. Run back to Fort Yuyang, run to Hao Tian, run. Who would have thought that just one attack would cause Queen Jean Long to lose all her confidence? She only wanted to run away. It was obvious that in Jean Long's mind, staying here meant certain death. No, I can't go. Faced with Queen Jean Long's request to run, Lu Lei simply refused. Jean Long, I've already run once. I don't want to run a second time. Anyway, I don't have many years left. Let me die with Yuzhang City. Otherwise, future generations will say that Yuzhang City doesn't even have a single person buried with me. Lu Lei patted the back of Jean Long's hand. Jean Long knew that Lu Lei had already made up his mind not to leave. She didn't try to persuade him anymore. She had seen sword-bearers die many times. It was just another experience. But Gohan, good disciple, you can't stay here any longer. Lu Lei pulled Gohan over. My good disciple, you have to escape. Yuzhang City is all on you now. Lead the remaining sword-bearers and leave Yuzhang City. If time is tight, it's okay if you escape alone. Let Ms. Misaka bring you along. With her help, you'll definitely be able to escape this place. Wait, did you guys notice that the attack just now wasn't ineffective? The black mist has stopped condensing. Queen Jean Long's attack was effective. Misaka Mikoto suddenly said. Gohan and Lu Lei looked up. Indeed, the black mist had stopped condensing. However, Yuan Ko was still being absorbed into his body. Then, take another attack from my godly electromagnetic cannon. Misaka Mikoto snorted coldly. She took out a coin and prepared to use the godly electromagnetic cannon to destroy the black mist. Wait, Sister Mikoto, don't use normal coins. Gohan suddenly said. Don't you have Emperor Alloy Powder? Use them and condense them into a coin. Let the black mist have a taste of the power of Giendi alloy. F***CK. Why are you so smart? Misaka Mikoto patted her head and took out a handful of golden powder. She then condensed the powder into a golden coin. It was a coin made of dimensional alloy. It was an alloy that even universe-level Yuan Ko could not deal with. Misaka Mikoto held the coin between her fingers. Electric sparks danced on her fingertip. Soon, a ball of golden light the size of a ping-pong ball condensed on her fingertip. Gohan could feel the terrifying power in the ball of light. If he were to be grazed by the ball of light, he would probably die. However, Misaka Mikoto still felt that the ball of light was not big enough. The electromagnetic energy continued to accumulate in her body, and the ball of light continued to grow. When it was the size of a tangerine, Misaka Mikoto's entire body was drenched in sweat. It was obvious that she had exhausted all of her energy. Destroy! Suddenly, The ball of light that was the size of a juicy shot out an electromagnetic beam that was as thick as a water bucket. It was different from the godly electromagnetic cannon that destroyed half of Nanjing City. The godly electromagnetic cannon this time was more concentrated and concentrated. Naturally, its power was more concentrated and concentrated. This time, the black mist did not resist. The entire black mist was hit by the electromagnetic beam. It seemed like everything was going well. Chapter 559. Needless to say, the godly super-electromagnetic gun lasted for quite a long time. It blinded Gohan for a few minutes before he regained his vision. He looked at the sky and saw that the black mist had disappeared. It seemed like the godly super-electromagnetic gun had destroyed it. Sister Michin, you've worked hard. It's all thanks to you. Otherwise, Gohan quickly helped the exhausted Misaka Michin up from the ground. She seemed to have overexerted herself as she lay on the ground like soft mud. Gohan carried her up. Master, it's all over. Let's clean up the house. Gohan turned around and said to Liu Lei. However, he noticed that Liu Lei's expression was very strange. Liu Lei's body was tense and his eyes were fixed on his surroundings as if there was something extremely terrifying around him. Be careful. Suddenly, Liu Lei grabbed Gohan's hand and drilled into the void. When he reappeared, he was already at another place. Gohan looked at the place where he was standing in a daze. He noticed that the place had turned into a charred pit with black smoke coming out of it. It was obvious that the place where Gohan was standing had been completely destroyed by an extraordinary skill. Little fella, your reaction is quite fast. You still have the mood to run away with your disciple. The black smoke that was scattered earlier had gathered again. This time, it was no longer in the shape of a disgusting person. Instead, it had taken the shape of a person. The person was covered in a black robe. The robe did not look like it was made of cloth. Instead, it looked like it was made of water. The entire robe looked like a constantly flowing lake, exuding a strange black color. I'm Cloudy Sword Immortal Liu Lei. Greetings, sir. Liu Lei bowed cautiously to the person in the robe. Congratulations on your resurrection, sir. You've finally seen the light of day. What's wrong? You don't want to kill me anymore? The person in the robe said in a hoarse voice, Fine, since you don't want to kill me, then answer my next question. Let me ask you, what time is it now? Has the little fellow from the fleeting calendar returned? The existence in the robe actually asked about the fleeting year calendar. It seemed like he was from the same era as Kenzu. Thinking of this, Gohan's heart thumped. He could not help but have a guess about this cloaked man. But what did the return of the fleeting calendar mean? Could it be that Kenzu was still alive? Gohan guessed excitedly in his heart. Lord Kenzu has been missing for over 930 years, and Kenzu has never returned. Liu Lei thought for a moment before replying. It's been 900 years. Looks like the fleeting calendar won't be able to return. Following this, the black-robed man asked Liu Lei a few more questions about the changes in the world and the situation in the Eastern Heavenly Court. These questions were all common knowledge, and Liu Lei only needed to do a little research to find out the answers. Therefore, Liu Lei answered very straightforwardly. It seemed like this cloaked man had indeed been trapped in this creation godhood for over 900 years. Otherwise, he would not have asked so many common knowledge questions. Good. Little guy, you're quite tactful. Tell me, what kind of ending do you want? Suddenly, the cloaked man asked a question. I wonder what kind of ending this little old man can choose? Liu Lei raised his head and looked straight at the man in the robe. You have two choices. The cloaked man laughed coldly. First, let me turn you into an Azura and make you my first Azura king. This is a great opportunity for me. Don't miss it. As for the second one, I'll kill you first, then turn you into an Azura. Don't worry, you'll still be my Azura king. Well, the two choices were actually the same ending. Either way, he would be turned into an Azura by this cloaked man. Just from the name, one could tell that this was definitely not a good thing. In the end, he would probably suffer a fate worse than death. Azura? That's a familiar name. I think I've seen it somewhere. Hearing the words Azura, some clues popped up in Gohan's mind. However, when Gohan wanted to pull out these clues and read them carefully, they disappeared without a trace. The great cultural extinction back then was too thorough. They should have died in some incomplete record. The name of Azura flashed across Gohan's mind, but he could not remember it in detail. That's fine. Then let me ask you, sir, if I let you do whatever you want to me, can you spare the people of Yuzhong City? Lu Lei said word by word. Master. When Gohan heard the words, let me do whatever I want to you, he knew that Lu Lei had already made up his mind to exchange his life for the safety of Yuzhong City. He hurriedly pulled Lu Lei's arm, trying to get him to give up on this idea. Ah, don't worry, they're all my treasures. I can't bear to kill them. The cloaked man laughed wildly. You're my Azura king, your disciple is my Azura envoy, and your entire city is my Azura. From now on, you'll never grow old, and you'll enjoy longevity with me. Isn't that 1,000,000 times better than being a useless human? This cloaked man actually wanted to turn the 40 million people of Yuzhong City into Azura. This guy's plan was more than 10 times more arrogant and crazy than Rocky Medusa. There's nothing much to say. We humans will always be humans. We'll never be some random Azura. Lu Lei held his Dragon Slayer sword and stood straight in front of the cloaked man. Gohan, follow the plan. Leave now. I'll buy you enough time. Master, I'll avenge you. After saying that, Gohan carried Misaka Mikoto and started running. Gohan's words sounded very heartless, and his actions were very rebellious. Master is not dead yet. Shouldn't a protagonist with normal values fight the enemy together with Master? Live and die together? You want to leave? Have you asked for my opinion? Hearing Lu Lei's words, the cloaked man laughed mockingly. Suddenly, a black stream of water came out of his sleeve and headed for Gohan's back. Be careful, disciple. Lu Lei blocked Gohan's back and slashed at the stream of water with his Dragon Slayer sword. Although it was only a stream of water, when the Dragon Slayer sword collided with him, it was as if it was slashing at a piece of metal, and it made a clanging sound. However, Lu Lei successfully blocked the stream of water, and did not let it hurt Gohan. Idiot! Seeing that Lu Lei blocked his stream of water, the cloaked man swung his sleeve angrily. Another stream of water rushed out and hit Lu Lei's chest. Lu Lei was sent flying a few hundred meters away before he finally fell to the ground. It was unknown if he was dead or alive. When the masked man finished dealing with Lu Lei and went to look for Gohan, he discovered that Gohan had disappeared without a trace. He had no idea where he had run off to. Forget it, he can't escape from my palm anyway. Although it was not difficult for the cloaked man to find the missing Gohan, he did not have the mind to care about Gohan at all. He had more important things to do. The cloaked man slowly flew into the air. His left hand pointed to the sky, and his right hand pointed to the ground. His face actually revealed a hint of holiness. From today onwards, this shall be the new Nether Blood Sea. The Nether River lineage shall rise again. With that, the cloaked man was like a large water faucet. Endless blood gushed out from under his cloak, and soon spread from where the Nether River Patriarch was to the entire core area, and the edge of the core area was blocked by the dimensional barrier, preventing it from entering the common area. However, the moment the blood touched the dimensional barrier, it was like fire meeting water. It boiled continuously and emitted blood-red smoke. If anyone paid attention to the display of the dimensional barrier, they would see that the energy of the dimensional barrier was rapidly decreasing. Clearly, the blood was attacking the dimensional barrier. Gohan landed on the ground with a plop and returned to the emergency center once again. This was the safest place he could think of. Gohan! Gohan! Song Yifei and Liuyan Ling came to greet him. They heaved a long sigh of relief when they saw that Gohan was not missing an arm or a leg. But soon they saw a weak woman in Gohan's arms, and their faces darkened at once. "Gohan, who is this woman?" Song Yifei asked impolitely. Gohan ignored Song Yifei's jealousy. He immediately went to the main control panel of the emergency center and pulled out all the cameras that could monitor the situation on the ground. Most of the cameras could not display the content because they did not have power or were damaged. Fortunately, there were a few cameras that were still working. After connecting the signals of these cameras, Gohan saw a scene that he would never forget for the rest of his life. The man in the cloak floated in the sky, and endless blood flowed out from his cloak. The whole ground was covered in blood, and the whole city instantly became like Venice. What does this guy want to do? Gohan bit his lips until they bled. Suddenly, the alarm light of a shelter lit up, and the ear-piercing alarm was ringing crazily. This was the alarm of an underground shelter being invaded by danger. Gohan hurriedly turned on the camera of that shelter, and saw a large amount of blood pouring down the passage. The water level of the entire underground shelter had reached knee-height. This was not the scariest thing. The scariest thing was that once the blood touched the humans, the blood seemed to have a life of its own. It climbed up their bodies and wrapped around them. Then, the blood gradually hardened, turning these people into blood cocoons. They were sealed, and it was unknown whether they were dead or alive. Suddenly, Gohan understood what the man in the cloak meant by turning humans into Asuras. Perhaps when these blood cocoons broke out, humans would become Asuras. Chapter 560. Ling, you have to leave this place. Just when Gohan's hands and feet were cold from the blood cocoons, the void beside Gohan was suddenly torn open. A giant hand reached out from the void. It was a giant void hand that could rescue anyone who had left a mark on it. This meant that there was at least one immortal-level swordsman waiting to rescue Liuyan Ling from afar. "Grandpa, why did you do that?" Liuyan Ling was shocked. Her grandpa, Fleeting Wooden Fish, had reached out with a giant void hand to save her. According to the teachings of the Fleeting family, the elders were not allowed to save their children unless they were in a dire situation. Now that her grandpa had reached out with a giant void hand, did that not mean that the core area of Yuzhong City was already a dead end? Hao Tian told me that he sensed the power of the desolate level Yuan Ko in Yuzhong City. He is currently being held back by Zeus and Yahweh. There is no way he can get away. I have to save you. Fleeting Wooden Fish said, the desolate level Yuan Ko has appeared. Yuzhong City will definitely become a dead end. You can't stay here any longer. Ling, Grandpa will bring you away. Ling understands. Liuyan Ling knew what it meant for her grandpa to help. She did not want to stay and die, but she could not let Gohan and Song Yifei die here. Grandpa Ling has two good friends. I hope Grandpa can bring them along. Good friends? Fleeting Wooden Fish paused for a while. How many friends? Two. 2 friends. Ling knows that Grandpa can only bring 3 people at a time. Ling only has 3 friends. In fact, there should be 4 people here. Including Liuyan Ling, there were 5 of them. However, since Fleeting Wooden Fish could only bring 3 people with him, Liuyan Ling had excluded Ku Rock-in and Misaka Mikoto. Fine. Come to Grandpa, Grandpa will bring you away. Fleeting Wooden Fish said quickly. Thank you, Grandpa. Liuyan Ling immediately pulled Song Yifei, who was confused, to her side. She then wanted to pull Gohan. Thank you for your grandfather's kindness. Gohan was born in Yuzhong City and will die in Yuzhong City. If Yuzhong City is gone, there is no need for Gohan to continue living. Ling, take Yifei and leave this place. Gohan's tone was calm, but the determination in his words was unquestionable. Gohan. This is the descendant of the Gu clan. Fleeting Wooden Fish muttered to himself when he heard Gohan's name. No one knew what he was thinking. But Liuyan Ling wanted to persuade Liuyan Ling again, but the pair of giant hands grabbed Song Yifei and Liuyan Ling by the waist and dragged them into the void. But he's courting death. Stop trying to persuade him, Ling. Liuyan Ling and Song Yifei disappeared from the stress response center just like that. They were probably at their grandfather's side. Logically speaking, the void gate should have closed by now. But unexpectedly, the void gate was still open and hadn't closed. Is there anything else, Master Fleeting Wooden Fish? Gu Han knew that old man Lunyan still had something to say to him when he saw that the void gate was still there. It's nothing much. I just want to tell you that the blood cocoon needs an hour to break out of the cocoon. If you can kill the Nether River Patriarch within an hour, the dimensional vortex will take away the Nether River Patriarch's remains. You will be able to save everyone in the city, including your master. Fleeting Wooden Fish said before the void gate disappeared. The Nether River Patriarch. This Yuan Ko is the Nether River Patriarch. Gu Han finally knew the background of this terrifying masked man. It turned out that he was the Nether River Ancestor, one of the 3 desolate grade primordial souls that had shaken the world in the early stage of the Great Calamity. It was no wonder that he would first ask about the Sword Ancestor, and it was also no wonder that he would run out of the creation godhead. The Nether River Patriarch was one of the 3 desolate level Yuan Ko who had first obtained the creation divinity and started researching it. In the end, the Nether River Patriarch was killed by the creation divinity. The Nether River Patriarch was actually one of the Huaxia immortals. He was a super powerful desolate level Yuan Ko who could suppress the Jade Emperor. However, the Nether River Patriarch had only been active for a few decades before he died by his own hand. That was why he was almost unknown in the human world. Those who did not specialize in the history of Yuan Ko would not know of the existence of this Yuan Ko. It was no wonder that Gohan and Lu Lei could not guess his identity. Although the Nether River Patriarch had died in the explosion of the creation divinity, no one had seen the dimensional vortex appear. The Nether River Patriarch must have used some special method to hide his soul or divinity within the creation divinity. That was how he survived. But why did Liuyan Ling's grandfather tell me that I still have an hour to save people? At that moment, more and more alarms were ringing. More than half of the underground shelters had been invaded by the blood, and the humans inside had all turned into blood cocoons. An hour later, they would irreversibly turn into Azuras. Even if the Nether River Patriarch died, they could not return to their original state. They had been eroded too deeply by the power of the Blood Sea, and they would only become a pile of bones. Could it be that Liuyan Ling's grandfather wants to tell me that I still have a chance to save the lives of the people of Yuzhang City? At that thought, Gohan immediately took action. He seemed to have accessed all the information he could find about the Nether River Patriarch through the internet. However, the information was very general, and there were less than 100 words of information in total. Feeling helpless, Gohan could only turn to Tomono Kakashi, who was in charge of human core intelligence and information. Hearing Gohan's request, Tomono Kakashi seemed to be in a difficult position. All the information about the Nether River Patriarch is SSS level. If I were to retrieve it for you, it would definitely not escape the surveillance of those people in white coats. Moreover, I don't have the authority to retrieve this information. I really can't help you. The confidentiality and authority of the information ranged from S level to SSS level. As the master of the Sword Tower and one of the higher-ups of the entire human race, Gohan could only access SSS level information. The highest SSS level information was not something that Gohan could access. P.S. I don't remember if I wrote that SSS level is the highest authority. If I did, then the author would have slapped himself in the face. Yes, from now on, SSS level is the highest authority. Oh my God! So, who has the authority to retrieve this information? Gohan asked quickly. 3 people. Tomono Kakashi also replied quickly. Long Shi Jiandi, Hao Tian Jiandi, and the leader of the people in white coats, Dr. Chu Xian. Only the three of them have the authority to allow me to retrieve SSS-level information. Of course, if the People's Conference of the 8 cities next year allows you to access it, you can access the information you want. Give it to me and connect to His Majesty Hao Tian's communication. Guhan had spoken to Hao Tian Jiandi in the trial formation before. He felt that Hao Tian was a good person. With Yuzhang City on the verge of destruction, Guhan would definitely be able to get Hao Tian's permission. Sorry, Hao Tian Jiandi is in a state of incommunicado, Tomono Kakazi replied. This was not surprising. Hao Tian Jiandi was now besieged by 2 desolation-level Yuan Ko. Naturally, he was in an area where communication was cut off. It was normal that he could not be contacted. What about Long Shi Jiandi? Although Long Shi Jiandi was not on good terms with him, he would not leave him in the lurch. Long Shi Jiandi is currently playing a game. He has set it to reject all disturbances. His authority is higher than mine. I can't contact him. Tomono Kakazi's words made Guhan a little angry. Yuzhang City, one of the 8 cities, was on the verge of destruction. This human Jiandi was still in the mood to play a game and refused all disturbances. He was too awesome. Although Guhan was angry, it was useless. Helpless, Guhan could only turn to the last person, Dr. Chu Xian. Contacting Chu Xian was no accident. Soon, Chu Xian appeared in Guhan's communicator. Hello, I am the Senior Colonel Commander of the Core Research Base, Chu Xian. What can I do for you? Unexpectedly, Chu Xian's voice was not the voice of a white-bearded old man Guhan had imagined. It was a young, cold and handsome voice. It felt closer to the feeling of a soldier, which corresponded to his identity as a senior colonel. I am the master of Yuzhang City's Jiangya, Guhan. I now request to immediately access the SSSS-level information on Desolation-level Yuan Ko Ancestor River Stick. Please approve it immediately, Guhan said quickly. However, from Chu Xian's voice, it was obvious that he was a very rigid and boring person. Moreover, with his identity as a soldier, such a person would not let go of the rules. Guhan was prepared to spend some time explaining why he wanted the information on Ancestor River Sticks to convince Chu Xian to agree to his request. But who would have thought that before Guhan could speak, Xian would start talking himself? The master of Jiangya isn't Lu Lei? When did it become Guhan? But since Tomono Kakazi allowed you to speak to me, the master of Yuzhang City's Jiangya has changed. Yuzhang City is in a crisis. I didn't expect it to reach the point of changing the master of Jiangya. Yuzhang City must be in danger. You don't have time to waste. Take this information and do what you should do. Chu Xian hung up immediately. Before Guhan could say thank you, a document was sent to Guhan's personal terminal. It took less than 5 seconds to get the information from Chu Xian's communicator. Guhan glanced through it. Yes, it was indeed Ancestor River Styx's confidential information. This Chu Xian is very special. Guhan's voice was a little ethereal. It was the first time he met someone he couldn't see through. That's how Chu Xian is. If you spend too much time with him, you will be driven crazy by him. Tomono Kakazi stuck out her tongue. Then I won't disturb you from saving the world. Interesting. Guhan pursed his lips and began to browse through the information in detail. As expected, Guhan found a way to defeat the Nether River Patriarch in the information. Chapter 561. Legend had it that the Nether River Patriarch was the founder of the Indian deity system under the primitive deity system. When the world was created, Pangu died of exhaustion. A puddle of blood between his eyebrows turned into the Nether Blood Sea, which gave birth to the Nether River Patriarch. The Nether River Patriarch was the desolate level Yuan Ko, who appeared in the 3rd year after the apocalypse. He attacked for the first time during the siege of Old Yenjing City, turning over 1,000 sword-bearers and 3 million civilians into the Azura tribe. Kanzu could not defeat him in battle. In the end, he borrowed his good friend Zhen Yuanzi's innate spiritual treasure Earthly Tome to escape from Old Yenjing City with the remaining 3,000 sword-bearers and 300,000 civilians. Since then, Old Yenjing City had become the Nether Blood Sea. The human race hid between the gaps of the dimensions to preserve humanity. The Nether River Patriarch rarely fought. He always used the Azura tribe he created as fighters. With the innate spiritual treasure Yuan-Tu and the Avicii two swords as his foundation, he was extremely powerful. He was once considered the most powerful Yuan Ko in the world. After Kanzu became an Emperor Sword-level sword-bearer, he once tried to recover Old Yenjing City and build it into the first base city of the human race. It was a pity that Kanzu had set up a killing formation 3 times in an attempt to kill the Nether River Patriarch. However, it was all because of the Yuan-Tu and the Avicii two swords' power. They were equivalent to an Emperor's sword lady. In addition, the Nether River Patriarch had the power of the Desolate-level Yuan Ko. The two of them together were equivalent to 2 Emperor's Sword-level sword-bearers. Although Kanzu's power was outstanding and it was normal for him to fight someone of a higher level, the Nether River Patriarch had made up his mind to escape. Hence, all 3 killing formations had failed. Kanzu was worried about this. He went to talk to his good friend Zhen Yuanzi to ask for advice on how to kill the Nether River Patriarch. Zhen Yuanzi replied, if he wanted to defeat the Nether River Patriarch, he had to defeat his Yuan-Tu and the Avicii two swords. Apart from the 4 celestial exterminating swords, only the Yuan-Tu and the Avicii two swords could defeat the Nether River Patriarch. The opportunity for the 4 immortal exterminating swords had yet to arrive. They would only appear in the world after 1,000 years. Therefore, he still had to think of a way to get his hands on the Yuan-Tu and Avicii swords. Kanzu did not understand. The Nether River Patriarch had refined the Yuan-Tu and Avicii swords, and no one else could use them apart from him. Even if he managed to steal it, it would be useless. It was a terrible idea. Zhen Yuanzi waved his hand and said, I'm not talking about the Yuan-Tu and Avicii swords in Nether River Patriarch's hands. Those 2 swords were brought from our world and didn't originally exist in this world. The 2 swords, Yuan-Tu and Avicii, still exist in this world. They are in the endless magma beneath the earth, and the Nether River Patriarch's defeat is certain if you can find them. It was impossible for 2 identical things to exist in the world. 2 Yuan-Tu axes and Avicii, one of them must be real, and the other must be fake. When the fake thing met the real thing, it would naturally be destroyed in an instant, just like a punctured soap bubble. In your world, the Yuan-Tu and Avicii swords in Nether River Patriarch's hands are fake. Primordial spiritual treasures can only be used after being refined by one's own primordial spirit, just like the synchronization of the sword-bearers. The Nether River Patriarch's primordial spirit has been integrated with the Yuan-Tu and Avicii swords. Once the 2 swords are pierced, the Nether River Patriarch's primordial spirit will be destroyed as well. Without his primordial spirit, what difference is there between him and a child on the street? You only need to find the real Yuan-Tu and Avicii swords, and you don't need to synchronize them. As long as you pierce them into Nether River Patriarch's body, the primordial spirit of Nether River Patriarch that had refined the Yuan-Tu and Avicii swords will naturally collapse. Then, killing the Nether River Patriarch will be as easy as pie. After receiving Zhen Yuanzi's hint, the Sword Master spent about 1 year searching in the underground magma. Finally, he found the real bodies of the legendary Yuan-Tu and Avicii swords. Therefore, Kanzu began his 4th encirclement on the Nether River Patriarch. Everything went smoothly at first, and the Nether River Patriarch was soon surrounded. Just when the Nether River Patriarch wanted to escape with the Yuan-Tu and Avicii swords like before, Kanzu conveniently took out the real Yuan-Tu and Avicii sword. The Nether River Patriarch sensed the presence of the real Yuan-Tu and Avicii swords, which frightened him. He understood Kanzu's intention, so he made a prompt decision to burn half of his primordial spirit, which doubled his strength in a short time. Then, he broke through the formation at an extremely fast speed and escaped. Kanzu could not even touch him. Only then did he escape with his life from the real Yuan-Tu and Avicii swords. After that, the Nether River Patriarch disappeared without a trace, and the Ashura tribesmen were all killed by humans. It was not until the creation deity was born that the Nether River Patriarch reappeared. This time, the Nether River Patriarch and the other two desolate-level Yuan-Ko tried to use the power of the creation deity to restore half of their primordial spirit. However, under the siege of Kanzu and the half-day Jiendi, they detonated the power of the creation deity and disappeared with Kanzu. In fact, the information on the Nether River Patriarch was rather long. It could be written for about 3 chapters, and a day's worth of updates would be finished just like that. Therefore, this was only a simplified version. Only the part that Gohan was interested in was written. It was from this part that Gohan found the way to defeat the Nether River Patriarch. It was obvious that the Nether River Patriarch had a fatal weakness. He was afraid of the real Yuan-Tu and Abi swords. Judging from the fact that he had absorbed the power of Yuan-Ko crazily after his rebirth, the Nether River Patriarch's strength had not increased in the past 1,000 years. Instead, it had weakened a lot. He needed the power of an ordinary Yuan-Ko to recover. In that case, he would not be able to withstand the attack of the real Yuan-Tu and Abi swords again. As long as the Yuan-Tu and Abi swords were stabbed into the Nether River Patriarch's body, he would not be able to harm Yuzhong City even if he did not die. So the question was, where were the real Yuan-Tu and Abi swords? I don't know if everyone remembers the story about Zhetian Jiendi. At the peak of Sanqing Mountain, the immortal sword-rank swordsman, Zhetian, wielded the Yuan Killer Sword, and another immortal sword-rank swordsman wielded the Avicii Sword. In the end, I Ching emerged victorious and ascended to the throne, becoming the famous Zhetian Sword Emperor. On its own, the Yuan-Tu and Abi swords were only an immortal sword-level swordmistress, but together, they were Emperor sword-level swordmistresses. Therefore, Zhetian Jiendi's Emperor sword-level swordmistresses were the Yuan-Tu and Abi swords. As a city built by Zhetian Jiendi, the Yuan-Tu and Abi swords were naturally left behind after Zhetian Jiendi ascended. They became the treasures of Yuzhong City's sword garret and were passed down from generation to generation. Including Zhetian, there were a total of 4 swordsmen who coordinated the Yuan-Tu and Abi swords at the same time and became emperors. Ever since Terminus Jiendi, there was no other Jiendi who relied on the Yuan-Tu and Abi swords to ascend. The 2 swords had been hidden in the 6th floor of Sword Garret. Now, you should have guessed where the Yuan-Tu and Abi swords are, right? That's right, the 2 swords were in Gohan's dimensional pouch. At this moment, Gohan suddenly began to believe in the so-called fate. Yuzhong City was not fated to die, nor was humanity. The Yuan-Tu and Abi swords were in Gohan's hands. Gohan did not need to search for the 2 swords in the underground magma like Kanzu did. Gohan only needed to find a way to send the swords into the body of the River Styx Patriarch. What was fate? This was fate. With this fate, Yuzhong City would not die. At the thought of this, Gohan was very excited. The little bit of despair he had before was thrown to the back of his mind, and all he could think about was how to send the Yuan-Tu and Abi swords into the body of the River Styx Patriarch. The first problem he had to solve was the problem of flying. At this moment, the River Styx Patriarch was floating in the air. If Gohan wanted to get close to him and send the 2 swords into the body of the River Styx Patriarch, he had to fly up and not touch the ground. Otherwise, he would be instantly wrapped in blood and become the River Styx Patriarch's Azura. However, Gohan could not fly. Only spirit sword bearers could master the ability to fly. Otherwise, Gohan would not have been trapped underground and had to rely on Lu Lei's help to fly up. The second problem he had to solve was the problem of speed. Gohan only had one chance. The River Styx Patriarch had experienced the disaster of the Yuan 2 and Abi swords once. Once bitten, twice shy. Once the Yuan 2 and Abi swords were taken out, the River Styx Patriarch's first reaction would be to run, and when he came to his senses, he would have 1,000 ways to kill Gohan. Therefore, Gohan had to stab the Yuan 2 and Abi swords into it the moment he took them out of the dimensional brocade pouch. Only then would there be a slight chance of success. Therefore, the most important thing was speed. He had to be fast, so fast that the River Styx Patriarch would not have time to react. Gohan, a treasure sword bearer, wanted to make the River Styx Patriarch lose the time to react. This was completely impossible. Gohan had calculated that it would probably take him 1/10 of a second to draw the sword at his fastest speed. But according to records, except for a few desolate level Yuan Ko, the rest of the desolate level Yuan Ko, especially the Yuan Ko of the immortal bloodline, had a reaction time of 1/10,000th of a second. They could even slow down time, just like how 1 day in heaven was equivalent to 1 year on Earth. At the thought of this, Gohan's joy was all for naught. He believed that Liuyan Ling's grandfather, Fleeting Wooden Fish, knew that the Yuan 2 and Abi swords could kill the River Styx Patriarch. Even though he ranked first on the ranking of Immortal and Sword, and was the strongest person below Emperor sword bearers, he had taken his people and left without any intention of killing the River Styx Patriarch. In his opinion, it was impossible for him to stab the Yuan 2 and Abi swords into the River Styx Patriarch's body. Fleeting Wooden Fish could leave. He was not from Yuzhong City, and Yuzhong City did not have much connection with him. But Gohan could not leave. Even if the chance of success was 1 in 10,000, or even 1 in a billion, Gohan had to fight with his life on the line. At worst, he would die. Gohan looked at the time. There were 50 minutes left in the hour. Sitting on the ground, Gohan emptied his mind and closed his eyes, beginning to think about this faint chance of survival. Chapter 562. Quick. Fly. Fly. Quick. These 2 words kept repeating in Gohan's mind. Gradually, his mind was in a trance, but he could not come up with a suitable solution. Gohan knew that his mind was in a mess. Usually, when he was calm, his mind would not be in such a mess. Gohan pulled out Qingpin's sword and slashed his thigh. Fresh blood instantly flowed out, and an intense pain engulfed Gohan's entire brain. Gohan, what are you doing? Don't kill yourself. Misaka Mikoto, who was next to Gohan, was a little scared when she saw this. Could it be that Gohan was so desperate that he wanted to kill himself? It's okay. I heard that pain can counteract confusion. I'm just using this method to calm myself down. Gohan waved his hand, indicating that he did not want to kill himself. He was just using the pain to calm himself down. Needless to say, this method was quite effective. Gohan had indeed calmed down, and his thoughts gradually became clearer. This child, it's really hard on him. Misaka Mikoto could not help but lament when she saw the blood on Gohan's thigh. The burden of the entire Yuzhong City was on Gohan's shoulders. Apart from herself, there was no one else who could help him. Just when Misaka Mikoto was worried about Gohan, Gohan suddenly asked, Sister Mikoto, can you still use the God electromagnetic gun? Yes. Misaka Mikoto answered confidently. In fact, Misaka Mikoto knew the condition of her body the best. In order to eliminate the Styx River Patriarch in one go, Misaka Mikoto had used 98% of the power in her body. She was like a cell phone with only 2% of power left. She could shut down at any time due to battery exhaustion. Once Misaka Mikoto shut down her cell phone, it would not be easy to turn it back on again. Sister Meichin, let me ask you again. What's the fastest speed of your super electromagnetic gun? Gohan asked again. Can it be 10 to 20 times faster than the god electromagnetic gun? Plus, it can shoot something as heavy as me. As heavy as you. Misaka Mikoto was shocked, but she did not say anything. She lowered her head and calculated for a while. If I don't need any electromagnetic damage, I can shoot you 8 times faster than before. That's my limit. 8 times. Maybe it's enough. Gohan's face showed a determined expression. Whether it succeeds or not, it all depends on God. As the blood filled the entire core area of Yuzhong City, the Styx River Patriarch felt that the lives of hundreds of thousands of people were under his control. They were slowly changing into the appearance of an Azura. At the same time, his sea of blood was constantly wearing down the energy of the dimensional barrier. In just a little more time, the entire dimensional barrier would be destroyed by him. All the humans here would become his slaves, and his Azura sect would once again flourish. The Styx River Patriarch was very happy when he thought of this. These were the foundations for him to achieve enlightenment. Fleeting calendar, come out again if you can. Bring the UN2 Avicii out if you can. Come out again if you can. Bring the UN2 Avicii out if you can. The Styx River Patriarch muttered in his heart. He did not seem to know that there was something called a flag in this world. It was not his fault. When he was active, the concept of a flag did not exist in this world. However, the Styx River Patriarch seemed to have forgotten that although Kanzu was no longer around, the UN2 Avicii twin swords might not have disappeared. Suddenly, the Styx River Patriarch noticed some light flashing in the distance. His eyes lit up and he clearly saw the scene in the distance. The Ian-level girl who had escaped earlier had jumped out again and gestured to launch the super electromagnetic gun. It seemed like she was ready to fire another shot at him. Wait a minute, isn't this girl supposed to use a coin? Why is she using a person instead? The Styx River Patriarch realized that the girl was not preparing to fire a coin. Instead, it was a person who was wrapped in a layer of shiny gold metal. Instinctively, the Styx River Patriarch had an ominous premonition. Go! The Styx River Patriarch waved his hand and a blood-colored stream of water shot toward Gohan and Misaka Mikoto. That was the stream of water that had sent Lu Lei flying. One could imagine the consequences if it hit Gohan. I'll block it. At the crucial moment, a little girl suddenly jumped out from Gohan's side, using her own body to block in front of this stream of water. Then, her entire person directly exploded in the air, her physical body instantly disappearing, turning into a broken longsword that was like scrap iron, falling to the ground, drowning in this sea of blood. Itian, I'm sorry, Gohan said through gritted teeth. Misaka Mikoto was accumulating power and could not be disrupted. Helpless, Gohan could only use his sword maidens to block the blood arrow. This was what Gohan had planned in the emergency response center. When Gohan said that he planned to use them as shields, the sword maidens did not say a word. This was especially true for Itian. The sword maidens had always been a little undisciplined and liberal. However, she had strongly requested to be the first shield. In her words, this was called being a hero for the country and the people. After the blood arrow destroyed Itian, it disappeared as well. That was the unique characteristic of the Styx River Patriarch's skill. Once the target was killed, the skill would disappear. This was written in the Styx River Patriarch's confidential information. Something's wrong. Something's very wrong. The Styx River Patriarch knew that the sword maidens were like their lives to the sword wielder. Under normal circumstances, the sword wielder would rather die to protect the sword maidens so that their descendants could continue fighting. However, this sword wielder had asked the sword maidens to block the attack for him. There must be a big problem. The Styx River Patriarch flicked his sleeves and 2 blood arrows shot out at the same time. If it was possible, the Styx River Patriarch wanted to shoot 10 or even 100 arrows at the same time. Unfortunately, He had to maintain the existence of the sea of blood and ensure that there was an endless supply of blood. Otherwise, the Azura transformation process would be in vain. That was why he could only shoot 2 blood arrows at the same time. Gohan, brother, leave it to us this time. Seeing the 2 blood arrows shoot towards him, Gohan's remaining 2 sword maidens, Chinpin and Doyu, flew out without hesitation. They used their young bodies to block the blood arrow that had instantly killed Etion. Unsurprisingly, the 2 sword maidens also exploded and were instantly killed. However, Doyu almost broke in half, while Chinpin only returned to its sword form. There wasn't even a crack on its blade. How much longer do I have to charge for? Seeing that his 3 sword maidens had already fallen to the ground and couldn't even return to their swords, Gohan was extremely anxious. He was worried that the sword maidens would really break and enter an irreparable state, but he was also worried that there wouldn't be anyone left to block the attack for him to buy time. There's no need to wait, now's the time. Misaka Mikoto roared. Once again, Gohan charged forward. It was as if Gohan had returned to the time when he sat on the nuclear warhead. Back then, Artoria was behind him, but now it was Misaka Mikoto who was behind him. Little brother, do your best. Misaka Mikoto let out a relieved smile when she saw that she had launched the solid frost. She could no longer maintain her floating state and fell to the ground. The strange thing was, the blood did not wrap around Misaka Mikoto like how it would wrap around a human. It seemed like the blood sea could only transform a human into an Azura tribe member. First blade of the 3 green lotus blades, white lotus body. At the same time, Gohan used the first sword of the green lotus 3 swords, green lotus white root body. This was the second time that Gohan had actively used this skill. It was different from the first time because he had been suppressing it for too long. This time, Gohan had been practicing the first style of the Green Lotus 3 swords for a whole 20 minutes before he had accumulated enough energy for the Green Lotus white root body. He did not know if it was because Gohan had not completely mastered the 3 Green Lotus swords, but this sword technique could not be used as freely as the 9 swords of Mysterious Heaven. It would either automatically activate because he had suppressed it for too long, or he had to continuously accumulate chi because he did not accumulate enough. If Gohan had not used some special items in the sanctuary, he would have needed a longer time to accumulate chi. According to Gohan's estimation, if he wanted to prevent the Nether River Patriarch from dodging, Gohan would not even have 1/100th of a second from the time he launched the attack. That was why Gohan had to use the White Lotus body to improve his control over his body. Otherwise, he would have flown to the Nether River Patriarch's side in an instant, and Gohan would not even have time to draw his sword. You useless humans, do you really think you can fight back? The Nether River Patriarch was unconcerned as he watched Gohan fly towards him like a cannonball. He did not even have the interest to dodge, so what if the human crashed into him? He would just have one more Azura. Unfortunately, the Nether River Patriarch realized how wrong he was in the 100th of a second. 2 swords, one black and one white, suddenly appeared in the human's left and right hands like demons. Yuan-2. Avicii. The Nether River Patriarch was at his wits' end. He finally wanted to dodge, and all he had to do was take a small step to the left to evade Yuan-2 Avicii's attack. Unfortunately, he did not have that 1/10,000th of a second to react. Yuan-2 Avicii stabbed the Nether River Patriarch's body, and the Nether River Patriarch wailed in agony. Who would have thought that after 1,000 years, the Nether River Patriarch, who was ready to show off his might, would once again fall at the hands of Yuan-2 Avicii. Chapter 563. Like a cannonball, Gohan flew for several kilometers, passing through the windows of 7 to 8 buildings before crashing into a building that sold furniture. Then, he was lucky enough to fall on a sponge bed. The entire bed was crushed by Gohan, which stopped his flight. Gohan shook his head. There was no part of his body that did not hurt. According to Gohan's estimation, he had at least a dozen fractures, and many of his internal organs had ruptured. He reckoned that his body was bleeding. Although it would not kill him in the short term, it was excruciating to move. He wondered if the Nether River Patriarch was dead. Although it was excruciating, Gohan had to move. He wanted to see how the Nether River Patriarch was doing in the sky and if he had killed him. Therefore, Gohan endured the pain and slowly crawled to the window through which he had just rushed in. When he looked up into the sky, his heart turned cold at once. The Nether River Patriarch's figure was still hovering in the air, and blood was still flowing out of his robe. However, the flow rate of this blood water was worlds apart from before. Previously, the flow rate of the blood water was a 5G network, which could cover the entire core area in an instant. Now, however, it was a 2G network, which was only slightly thicker than a faucet. From this, Gohan could tell that even if the blow did not kill the Nether River Patriarch, it had severely injured him. Gohan looked at the Sword of Avicii and the Sword of Vitality that he had thrown away and felt a pang of regret. If only he had let go of the two swords after piercing the Nether River Patriarch's body, the Nether River Patriarch would have been dead by now. However, he had pierced through it with the swords. The Sword of Vitality and the Sword of Avicii had probably only touched the Nether River Patriarch's body for 1/10,000th of a second. Gohan should be satisfied that the Nether River Patriarch had turned from 5G to 2G. Actually, Gohan couldn't be blamed for this. No one could complete the action of drawing and releasing the sword in a 10,000th of a second. Gohan being able to complete half of it was already very impressive. Even with the help of the Green Lotus White Root Body, this was the limit of Gohan's ability. Unfortunately, it was all for naught. Patriarch Nether River did not die, his sea of blood did not break, and Yuzhong City was not saved. Gohan could no longer bear the pain and fell onto the sponge bed. Gohan left the medical bay to Ku-Rakin, and all the nanomachines were used on Liunyuan Lingohan did not even have the ability to heal himself. He could only wait for the blood sea to rise and turn himself into a member of the Shura tribe. "I'm tired. I want to sleep for a while." After doing everything he could, Gohan's heart was empty. The only thing left to do was to wait for death. "Hey kid, are you going to wait for death?" Just as Gohan was about to fall asleep, he suddenly heard a fierce voice. It was the voice of the Yellow Emperor's sword. Yes. Gohan opened his eyes and found that the Emperor's sword had unknowingly appeared beside him. It was placed beside Yuan-Tu and Avicii. Gohan should be content to die beside two Emperor's swords. Why don't you have even the slightest bit of indomitable will? Emperor's sword seemed to be very unhappy with Gohan's attitude. Back then, I had experienced more despair than you. Didn't I King survive all kinds of hardships? Now is not the time for you to be a coward. Is that so? Gohan turned his head and looked at the Yellow Emperor's sword beside him. It was strange. Why did this guy have so many problems? Yuan-Tu and Abi were also Emperor's swords. Why did they never talk to him? I'm also going to die soon. I wonder if the Emperor's Sword Queen can tell me your name? Then I can die without regrets. Gohan suddenly wanted to know the name of this Emperor's Sword Queen. He wanted to see who this Sword Queen, who spoke in such a unique manner, was. It's not the time to tell you yet. You'll know later. The Emperor's Sword Queen chuckled. Then, for the first time, she spoke in an extremely serious voice. I have another method that can help you turn the situation around. However, I'm afraid you won't be able to bear the consequences of this method. I don't know if you're willing or not. I'm willing. All the hair on Gohan's body stood on end. Clearly, the Emperor's Sword Queen's words had pulled Gohan out of his despair. His entire body tensed up. Don't be in a hurry to agree. Listen to the price first. The Yellow Emperor's sword floated up from the bed and stood in front of Gohan. What if this method turns you into a woman? With that, the Emperor's sword gently poked Gohan's crotch. There's no such thing as a real woman. Just like a classic freeze frame, Gohan did not know what to do with this price. Alright, I'll be more specific. You can make your decision after that. The Emperor Sword Queen said sternly. First of all, it's not to turn you into a woman forever. Instead, at certain times, it might not happen until you become an Emperor Sword wielder. It might also happen when you have sex with a woman. In short, this is something that cannot be controlled. However, more than 90% of the time, you'll still be the original Gohan. Hearing the Emperor Sword Queen say this, Gohan felt much calmer. He had thought that he would always turn into a woman, but it was only occasionally. However, after thinking about it carefully, if he suddenly turned into a woman in front of his friends, it would be extremely terrible. Also, this method requires the cooperation of a famed sword lady. Oh right, your sword element has exceeded 10,000 quarks, right? If it hasn't, this method won't work. I do. Hearing that he needed the cooperation of a famed sword lady, Gohan had a bad feeling. He instinctively thought of King Yu, who was still in the game. That's good. Later, eat the remaining 99% of the 6 transformations immortal pills. Of course, there's a 99% chance that you'll die, but don't be afraid. I want you to die. When you feel like you're about to die, immediately grab the famed sword lady and enter the synchronization stage. At that time, I'll stab you from the top of your head all the way to your perineum point. You don't have to worry about what happens next. Leave the rest to me. Hearing the Emperor Sword Queen's words, Gohan was silent for a long time. Finally, he said, "Can I ask a few questions?" "Sure," the Emperor Sword Queen answered readily. "But you have to be quick. It won't take long for the Nether River Patriarch to recover. Since there's a 99% chance that I'll die, what if there's a 1% chance that I'll survive?" Gohan asked his first question. "That's even better. Then you'll be an immortal sword wielder. With your Yuantu and Avicii, you'll be able to kill the Nether River Patriarch with just these 2 swords." This was clearly the best situation for Gohan. Unfortunately, a 1% chance was a little too small. "What do you mean when I'm about to die? What if I'm 1 step too early or 1 step too late?" Gohan asked again. "It's about when you feel like your soul is about to leave your body for about a second. If it's too soon, you'll fail and you'll still die. If it's too late, you'll be dead." This was truly a harsh condition. Gohan could only last for 1 second. Unfortunately, the effects of the Green Lotus White Root body had already ended. Otherwise, Gohan would have a 100% chance of surviving until this moment. Without the Green Lotus White Root body, Gohan would only have a 50% chance of surviving. It wasn't difficult to seize this 1 second. The difficult part was realizing that he was going to die in 1 second. One last question. What will happen to the famed sword mistress that I synchronize with? Gohan asked the most important question. Just like normal synchronization, you'll have your own famed sword mistress. After the Emperor Sword Queen finished speaking, she realized that Gohan's expression immediately turned sour. It was as if he had fallen out of love. "Don't worry. I just need you to modify your body a little when you enter synchronization. It won't affect the new sword mistress that you're nurturing in your purple mansion. Don't worry. Your famed sword mistress will be fine." The Emperor Sword Queen thought that Gohan's ugly expression was because he didn't believe that synchronization wouldn't have any accidents and wouldn't harm the famed sword mistress. "Then I won't be able to synchronize anymore." At this point, Gohan stopped talking. He resolutely took out the 6 transformations golden pill from his dimensional pocket. Without even looking at it, he directly threw it into his mouth and swallowed it. Once the golden pill entered his stomach, Gohan felt a flame burning from his stomach to his entire body. In the end, even his purple mansion started burning. Gohan felt as if he was in a huge incinerator. He could be burned into a pile of ashes by these flames at any time. There's also green hair severing. There's also the sword mistress grafting technique. If I really can't do it, I'll give up my spirit sword mistress. King Yu, don't worry. I, Gohan, will definitely not let you down. Amidst the raging flames, Gohan kept thinking about King Yu's face. His heart was filled with guilt towards King Yu. With this guilt, the burning flames no longer seemed unbearable. Gohan, what are you thinking about? You're about to die. Seeing that Gohan was a little distracted, the Emperor's Sword Queen immediately shouted. This sentence brought Gohan back to his senses. At this moment, Gohan suddenly had a feeling that he was about to fly. Is this the feeling of my soul leaving my body? Is this the second before I die? Gohan didn't know whether he should pick up the famed sword mistress or not. If he was one step earlier, then wouldn't he be dead for sure? Indecisiveness will only lead to chaos. Gohan's hand grabbed a famed sword mistress that he had prepared. At this moment, Gohan started to petrify. Just in time. The Emperor's Sword Queen smiled rather charmingly. She immediately pierced through the top of Gohan's head and directly into Gohan's pouch. Damn you, didn't you say it would open up a cave? Chapter 564. When Gohan's consciousness woke up from the Purple Palace, Gohan was shocked to find that he had lost control of his body. Even though his consciousness was very clear, he couldn't even control a finger or an eyelid. He was like a person in a vegetative state with high paraplegia. Oh, that's not right. A person in a vegetative state with high paraplegia could at least control his head, but Gohan couldn't control any part of his body. Is this what it feels like to have a body? Suddenly, such a sentence came out of Gohan's mouth, but no matter how one listened to it, it sounded like a sweet girl's voice, not Gohan's standard male voice. Could it be that I've really become a girl like the Sword Empress said? Gohan really wanted to confirm this, but unfortunately, Gohan could only share the various senses of his body. That was all. He couldn't even lower his head to look at his own body. However, Gohan quickly knew whether he was a man or a woman. This was because Gohan's body actually stood up on its own, then very rudely took off his clothes. Then, he found a mirror in the furniture city and started admiring his naked body. Through this mirror, Gohan finally saw his current appearance. For the past 12 years, in the eyes of those who knew Gohan, this little guy had always been suppressed by hatred to the point that he couldn't stand up straight. He wanted to put all his energy and willpower into revenge. As for other things, Gohan didn't even think about them. Little did he know that the more perfect a person was, the greater the demon hidden in their heart. In other words, the greater the demon in a person's heart, the greater the holy angel hidden in their heart. Just like Wang Mang, who was a model of Confucianism in the first half of his life, became a shameless usurper in the later half of his life. Zhou Chu, who wreaked havoc in the countryside when he was young. Hong Chingchou, who was willing to die for his chastity but ended up destroying the Ming dynasty. Prostitutes didn't want to kiss their client. They only wanted to protect their last clean and holy place. Humans were the same. Wasn't Gohan the same? Gohan's personality was dark at the beginning. He was a loyal executor of self-interest, but now Gohan was willing to sacrifice his life and gender for Yuzhong City. Gohan had been dismissive of so-called Mo at first, but after meeting Qin Pin, he almost became a lolicon. Then we can infer that, although Gohan seemed to be a little frigid, pure, and disdainful of women, but in reality, he was what? In fact, in Gohan's heart, he had always had a very detailed fantasy about his future partner. The greater the despair of a person, the greater the desire in his heart. The more tragic the reality was, the more one liked to imagine their ideal world and ideal person in their heart. The person Gohan had drawn up in his heart was very detailed. She had a temperament like water. When she stood still, she was like a gentle and clear spring. When she moved, she was like the endless but lonely yellow river. She didn't have to be stunning or devastatingly beautiful, but she was absolutely unique. She could attract everyone's attention just by standing there. Even if death sank the fish and beasts fell from the sky, or outshone the moon and flowers by her side, it couldn't cover up her beauty. She must have long hair that reached her shoulders. It would be best if the tip of her hair was slightly curled up so that it could cover the slightly blushing cherry tip. Her skin must be whiter than snow. Although it was white, it wasn't the paleness of the white race. Instead, it was the kind of pure and flawless whiteness that came from the depths of her soul. Yes, her skin must not have a single flaw, not even a small red spot. Her skin must be like the face of a baby who had just turned 1 year old. It must be plump and full of elasticity. She must be able to show her charm through the fingertip. She didn't have to be tall, but the proportion of her body must be the best. No matter from which angle the photo was taken, it would be the most perfect person. Any little bit of PS would be extremely bad for her, because her body was already perfect to the extreme. Her twin peaks must be the most appropriate D-cup. They were like two milky white jellies, timidly covering there. They were both tall and soft. On top of the jellies, they were decorated with the most resplendent jewels, revealing the light pink color of cherries. If a shirt was placed over them, you would be able to see the exuberant vitality within the clothes that were pushed up high. Every moment, there was life in her clothes, like two newborn kittens that were begging for their mother's love and caress. Her legs must be slender and straight. They were slender and strong, but full of the charm of beautiful flesh. There was not a single part of her skin that didn't emit an electric light that made one's heart numb. One would want to hold her in one's arms and carefully play with her for a year. It was like a sharp knife that could pierce through one's heart. At the first sight of this pair of legs, one would lose his soul and be completely captured by her. If she wore pure white stockings, it would be the most holy gift that God gave to a gentleman. Didn't it sound very strange? It was hard to believe that this was the hottest fantasy in Gohan's heart. Gohan's dark and cold setting seemed to be completely shattered at this moment. Looking at himself in the mirror, Gohan actually had an urge to cry. Because this reflection of himself in the mirror completely matched all the above descriptions of his dream lover. It would be perfect if this person wasn't him. I'm so beautiful. In the mirror, Gohan gently held his two breasts with his two hands. His eyes revealed a sense of obsession. Boy, I didn't expect that there was such a perfect body in your mind. Could it be that you copied the memory in my mind? As soon as Gohan thought about it, he heard Gohan's mouth reply, "Not bad. This is the body that I made with reference to your memory. How about it? Do you like it?" "I like it." Gohan's consciousness was very honest and also very fiery and angry, "but I don't like this scene at all. You are blaspheming my dream. My spirit will never be in the same boat as my body." Don't be angry." Gohan gently put his jade-like finger in his mouth and sucked it. Then, he gently stroked the cherry with his slightly moist fingertip. A cold wind blew, and a tranquil and bone-chilling feeling almost froze Gohan's consciousness. "It's such a good body. It's such a pity to give it to you." After saying that, before Gohan's consciousness could refute, Gohan took out an ancient-style blue crescent-shaped dress from his dimensional pocket and put it on. This was the dress that Gohan had prepared for Etion. After Gohan put it on, she looked a little more heroic and fairy-like. From this, it could be seen that the female version of Gohan was indeed Gohan's original body. Otherwise, Gohan's dimensional pocket would not have been opened so easily and could be used at will. Alright, it's time to send the Nether River Patriarch off. Gohan tied the sash beneath his chest into a zing knot and prepared for the final battle against the Nether River Patriarch. Wait. Realizing that his body was about to go out, Gohan's consciousness hurriedly stopped him. "What's wrong? If this drags on, I might not be able to beat the Nether River Patriarch," Gohan said unhappily. "You can't use my name." Gohan's consciousness said. Although this is Gohan's body now, I will never admit that this is me, Gohan. You must have a new name. A new name? Gohan's lips curled into a smile. Alright, then from now on, I'll be called Gu Xian Yuan. Gu Xian Yuan. What a domineering name. Gohan repeated the name several times, and the Sword Empress finally gave herself away, or perhaps she told Gohan her name in another way. Alright, now that I have a name, it's time to fight. Gu Xian Yuan rolled up his sleeves, and a yellow Emperor's sword appeared in his hand. It was the Emperor's sword that I Ching had given to Gohan. Very good, the final battle was about to begin. Master, Juzi awaits your order. At the crucial moment, Gu Xian Yuan's actions were interrupted again. A cold and elegant girl in black pulled Gu Xian Yuan's sleeves and asked respectfully, Juzi? Gu Xian Yuan was a little confused when she saw this cold and elegant girl. Since when did she have another girl by her side? It's Juzi, not Juzi. Gohan's consciousness reminded helplessly. She should be my famed Sword Empress, Juzi Sword. She's the Sword Empress that I successfully synchronized with just now. Oh. Master remembers now. You're the cute Juzi Sword. Gu Xian Yuan rubbed Juzi's face that could not be called cute at all. I don't have any orders for you. Just wait here for Master to beat up that pervert. Master, Juzi awaits your order. Unfortunately, Juzi's sword did not fall for Gu Xian Yuan's trick at all. She still insisted that Gu Xian Yuan give her a mission. Gu Xian Yuan's pretty eyes turned, and she took out a video camera from her dimensional pocket. Then, cute Juzi, Master will give you an important mission. Gu Xian Yuan placed the video camera in Juzi Sword's hands. Record down Master's heroic posture. Understand? Yes, Master. Juzi Sword placed her palm across her chest, and performed a horizontal chest salute that only the Mahists of ancient times would do, also known as the Mahists' salute. Chapter 565. Not only could the Blood Sea transform humans, but it could also absorb their life force. With the continuous supply of life force, the Nether River Patriarch's power was gradually recovering. The blood flow that was as small as a faucet gradually grew to about half its original thickness. The first batch of Azura will be born in 3 minutes. As long as I have the blessing of the Azura tribe, I'll definitely be able to conquer this world and truly get rid of those existences. The Nether River Patriarch thought to himself, is that human still alive? I hope he doesn't show up in these 3 minutes. I seem to see the shadow of the fleeting calendar in that fellow. This is too bad. When all the Azura tribe is born, I'll personally eradicate this scourge. As the saying goes, what one thinks comes. Just as the Nether River Patriarch was planning how to get rid of Gohan, a person came out of nowhere and stood in front of the Nether River Patriarch. The blood sea beneath the Nether River Patriarch's robe flowed faster uncontrollably when he saw the human's appearance. The Nether River Patriarch was someone who was used to seeing beautiful women. The first batch of the Azura tribe he created back then, aside from the men, the women were all absolute beauties. They would attract a large number of diehard fans in any era. Logically speaking, the Nether River Patriarch was not human at all, and it was impossible for him to have any desire for human beauty. However, the moment he saw the woman's appearance, his heart was slightly moved. Of course, it was just a slight movement. The Nether River Patriarch regained his composure in an instant, but he was 100 times more wary of this woman. A beauty that could guard his Tao heart was enough for the Nether River Patriarch to treat this woman with all his attention. Good, good, good. Very good material. From now on, you're the Gandharv of the Azura tribe. Gandharv was the most beautiful female Azura that the Nether River Patriarch had created in the original world. She was the Nether River Patriarch's proudest creation. It was a pity that Gandharv lacked some of her charm when compared to this woman, which made the Nether River Patriarch instinctively put Gandharv's name on Gu Xuanyuan's head. Tui! Gandharv, that slut who can marry anyone, how can she use my name? Gu Xuanyuan spat out a mouthful of saliva. As a result, the saliva fell into the sea of blood, causing the entire sea of blood to boil. In an instant, a few hundred cubic meters of seawater evaporated. Who are you? The Nether River Patriarch turned pale with fright when he saw that a mouthful of saliva evaporated hundreds of cubic meters of the blood sea that he had painstakingly created. This was his blood sea, and even universe-level Yuan Ko wouldn't be able to get rid of a single drop of it. However, this human evaporated hundreds of cubic meters of it? Who was this human? I'm the one who will send you home, Nether River Patriarch. Leave the humans to me. The Xianyuan sword in Gu Xuanyuan's hand trembled, and he turned into a phantom, striking the Patriarch of the Nether River in a flash. When they separated again, the Patriarch of the Nether River's black robe was torn to a great extent, and the blood wrapped in the robe gushed out, looking extremely terrifying. However, in contrast, Gu Xuanyuan's neck was a bloody mess, and blood kept dripping down. It was unknown whether it was the Patriarch of the Nether River's blood or Gu Xuanyuan's own. From the looks of it, both sides seemed to have suffered heavy losses. This power. The Patriarch of the Nether River's robe began to heal, and finally returned to its original appearance. At the same time, a look of understanding appeared on the Patriarch of the Nether River's face. I didn't expect it to be you. Xianyuan sword, you finally appeared. The Patriarch of the Nether River spat out a shocking name. That's right, this Emperor Sword-level sword lady, who often spat out curses and even turned Gohan into a female body, was the legendary Xianyuan sword of the Yellow Emperor, the ancestor of the human race. Although this sword had never appeared in the human world, its name had always remained in the hearts of all humans. Even after the cultural catastrophe, even if 95% of the culture had been destroyed, the names of Emperor Xianyuan and the Xianyuan sword had never disappeared from human records. This was because this was the ancestor of every Chinese. Every Chinese knew this name from the day they were born. They would definitely tell this name to their descendants, telling them that they were the descendants of the Yellow Emperor, the descendants of Emperor Xianyuan, and that the Xianyuan sword was the supreme emperor sword of the human race. That's right. Although the Xianyuan sword had never appeared in the human world, and there had never been any news about the Xianyuan sword's appearance, all humans unanimously regarded the Xianyuan sword as an emperor sword and left a place for it among the top 3 emperor swords. In the words of Kanzu, if the Xianyuan sword was not an emperor sword, no sword lady in the world would dare to call herself an emperor sword. Because Emperor Xianyuan was the first emperor of the human race, the Xianyuan sword was naturally the first emperor sword of the human race. Humans even speculated that as long as the Xianyuan sword appeared, it would be the time for the human race to prosper. The era of Kanzu and Zhetian Jiandi would once again appear in this world. Leading the human race, they would beat Yuan Ko into hiding in his nest, not daring to come out and act presumptuously. Unexpectedly, the Emperor's sword that I Ching gave to Gohan was the Xianyuan sword. It was no wonder that Long Shi Jiandi and Hao Tian Jiandi appeared at the same time to snatch this Emperor's sword. They probably already knew that the Xianyuan sword was obtained by Zhetian Jiandi and then hidden somewhere. When the trial ground appeared, they guessed that the Xianyuan sword was there. However, Gohan had never thought of this. Even the smartest person would not be able to guess the identity of the Xianyuan sword without any information. It was only when the Xianyuan sword gave itself the name Gu Xianyuan that Gohan realized this through the homonym. It was no wonder that this Emperor Sword Queen could violate the common sense of all Emperor Swordswomen, and speak on her own without any synchronization. It was no wonder that the Xianyuan sword could do this. She was the strongest Emperor Swordswoman, according to 99% of human experts, and it would not be an exaggeration to call her the #1 swordswoman in history. I should have fled the moment I saw you appear," the Nether River Patriarch said sinisterly. "But that attack just now exposed you. Xianyuan's sword, I'm afraid you're not in your complete form. That's not even 1% of your strength." "This isn't your complete form either, Nether River Patriarch. You are the leader of the Azura sect, the peak demi-saint who fought for the last holy seat in this world. You can't have your clothes cut open by my sword, can you?" Gu Xianyuan retorted bluntly. "By the way, where's your Yuantu Avicii?" "Cut the crap." The Nether River Patriarch's nose twitched. "If it was you in your peak form or in Gongsun Xuanyuan's hands, I, the Nether River Patriarch, would have turned around and left. But now, it's not like I can't fight you." After the Nether River Patriarch finished speaking, the entire sea of blood boiled. At the same time, the humans in the blood cocoons who were turning into Azuras howled in pain. Their life force was being extracted by the Nether River Patriarch into the sea of blood. "Damn it! How dare you use the lives of humans to fight me?" Gu Xuanyuan's eyes widened, and with a leap, he actually dove into the blood sea that was dozens of meters deep, disappearing without a trace. Xianyuan's sword. "What are you doing?" The Nether River Patriarch panicked. What was the Xianyuan sword trying to do? But in the next moment, the Nether River Patriarch understood what the Xianyuan sword was trying to do. The entire sea of blood began to boil like a pot of boiling water. The seawater was evaporating at an astonishing speed. In just a few dozen seconds, the sea of blood had dropped by about 10 meters. This was more than 100 times faster than the Nether River Patriarch shooting the blood. What was more frightening was that the boiling blood followed the connection between him and the sea of blood and burned his body, causing it to boil as well. Xianyuan's sword. "I'll break you one day," the Nether River Patriarch said. The blood that was pouring out of his robe stopped at once. The Nether River Patriarch rose into the sky, ready to leave this terrifying place. Unfortunately, the Nether River Patriarch had forgotten one thing. This was the core area of Yuzhong City. Although his sea of blood had consumed more than 90% of the dimensional barrier's energy, the remaining 10% was enough to hold him off for a while. This amount of time was enough for Gu Xianyuan to finish him off. All of a sudden, a water dragon emerged from the boiling sea of blood and charged straight at the Nether River Patriarch. The Nether River Patriarch's eyes bulged at the sight of this. His robe puffed up, and a ball of extremely black blood gathered in his hand. It was clear that the Nether River Patriarch had given up on escaping and was ready to fight Gu Xianyuan to the death. The two invincible existences finally collided. All the humans in the blood cocoon in the core area felt their souls tremble at the same time. They seemed to see their ancestors, led by a shining golden giant, waging an earth-shattering battle against 99 half-human, half-beast monsters. In the end, the giant chopped off the neck of the most powerful enemy. All the humans knelt before the golden giant, offering their devotion to the giant and the divine sword. They also saw a beautiful woman with a human head and a snake's body, creating an artificial human. In the end, humans overcame all obstacles, made fire by drilling wood, built houses and woven clothes, planted crops with slash and burn, created characters with tortoiseshell, divided yin and yang, arranged the 8 trigrams, and finally became the ruler of the world. These were the memories buried in the depths of every human's soul. When Gu Xianyuan and the Nether River Patriarch collided, those memories burst out. Finally, the collision ended. When the dust settled, Gu Xianyuan and the Nether River Patriarch separated and stood opposite each other. "That's not fair. You actually used the soul imprint of 300,000 humans. You didn't defeat me with your own strength." The Nether River Patriarch's body was like a balloon that had been punctured with countless holes, and blood kept leaking out. Defeat is defeat. Why so much nonsense? I'm really King stupid. The standard language style of the Xianyuan sword appeared once again. "Ha ha ha. You and I are the same. You'll walk my path sooner or later. Let's meet at the next intersection. The Nether River Patriarch cracked his mouth and left those baffling words before completely exploding like an explosion. The dimensional vortex appeared. It was finally over. Chapter 566. The Nether River Patriarch was taken back by the dimensional vortex, and the rest of the blood in the core area naturally followed the Nether River Patriarch's dimensional vortex. However, Gohan vaguely saw something fly out of the Nether River Patriarch's body and quickly disappeared into the sea of blood. Something escaped. Gohan's consciousness quickly reminded the Xianyuan sword. It's okay. It's a good thing. Gu Xianyuan curled her lips and stopped talking about it. Since Gu Xianyuan said it was okay, Gohan simply shut his mouth. Gu Xuanyuan's real body was the Xianyuan sword, so she would not do anything to harm humans. If she said it was a good thing, then it was a good thing. At this time, the huge dimensional vortex was constantly swallowing the blood and was about to close. Quickly enter the dimensional vortex. Seeing this scene, Gohan's consciousness quickly said, "What for?" Gu Xuanyuan's eyebrows and nose wrinkled as she asked. Of course, to absorb the sword essence inside. Gohan's consciousness said quickly, "This is the dimensional vortex left by the desolate level Yuan Ko. The sword essence inside is probably more than 1,000,000 quarks. If you don't go in and absorb the sword essence, wouldn't it be a waste of God's gift? I know, you want the 1,000,000 quarks of sword essence, so that you can at least become a spirit sword level sword wielder, right?" Gu Xianyuan sneered. "Extinguish your thoughts and think with your brain. I'm using your body, not my own. Your body is just a simple human. If you go in, you'll die. If you must go in, I can satisfy you." "I know." Gohan's consciousness said, "I mean to let Juzi's sword go in. She's a famous sword-level sword mistress, so she can also absorb 100,000 quarks of sword essence." "That won't do." Gu Xianyuan smiled faintly. "Juzi is helping me with the video. This is much more important than the sword essence." Gohan stopped talking. Gohan knew that he had no way of persuading this Emperor's sword among Emperor swords. Therefore, he could only shut his mouth. He could only tell himself that it was only 100,000 quarks of sword essences. It was not a difficult task for him now. If he went all out to eliminate Yuan Ko, it would only take him half a year to gather so many sword essences. Moreover, there was an 8-city convention in the game. As long as he obtained the sword essence oral solution that came first, Gohan's sword essence would increase by tens of thousands of quarks in an instant. In the end, the dimensional vortex closed and all the blood disappeared. The human also escaped from the blood cocoon, but he fell into a coma. He probably wouldn't wake up anytime soon. After Gu Xianyuan saw the dimensional vortex close, she slowly flew back to the furniture city and found the Juzi sword, who was still recording dutifully. "Alright, it's over. There's no need to shoot anymore." Gu Xianyuan patted the Juzi sword's head, and the Juzi sword obediently put down the camera and handed it to Gu Xianyuan. Gu Xianyuan watched the entire video. Yes, the recording was very clear and the lens conversion was very good. The lens could actually keep up with the insane battle speed of Gu Xianyuan and the Nether River Patriarch. When it was time to take a long-distance shot, it was time to take a close-up shot. It made Gohan's blood boil. To put it bluntly, the standard of the Juzi sword's camera was no less than those photography masters who had won the Hungyan Film Awards. Next, like this. Gu Xianyuan pointed her finger at the Juzi sword's palm and wrote a long paragraph of words on the Juzi sword's palm with a crazy speed of 10 words per second. This made Gohan, who wanted to distinguish what Gu Xianyuan wrote, completely dumbfounded. Gohan didn't know how to write wildly. Wildly writing completely violated human common sense. Juzi understands. The Juzi sword seemed to have completely understood Gu Xuanyuan's meaning and nodded very seriously. Very good. In this case, I can leave this guy's body with peace of mind. Gu Xianyuan nodded. But what does this mean? What does it mean to leave my body? Before Gu Han could figure this out, he suddenly felt a wave of dizziness in his head, and he fainted. At the same time, in the emergency response center, the underground facility that had not been invaded by blood because of the best sealing effect, the cover of a medical chamber was slowly opened. Ku Rokin trembled and climbed out of the medical chamber. Did Liunian Ling and the others save me? Why are my injuries not completely healed? After waking up, Ku Rokin found that although his most serious wounds had completely healed, there were still some wounds that had not recovered. His skin and flesh were still exposed, but the bleeding had stopped. He should not die for a while. Jules Verne glanced at the monitor of the medical cabin and saw that the few most important medical resources had all lit up with a red light and showed the number 0%. He knew that it was because the medical cabin's resources had been exhausted that he could not be completely cured. Ku Rokin's eyes habitually glanced at the bottom of the medical chamber, and he was suddenly stunned. This is his mark. Ku Rokin found that there was a key-like icon at the bottom of the medical chamber. Others might not know, but Ku Rokin knew this icon very well because this icon was the Ju family's emblem. In this world, there were only two people who could engrave the Ju family's emblem on the medical chamber. One was him, and the other was his father, Ju Wudao. Ku Rokin's medical chamber had been used by other sword-bearers. Moreover, the appearance of this medical chamber was completely different from Ku Rokin's medical chamber. There was only one possibility left. This medical chamber was his father, Ju Wudao's medical chamber. Could it be that my father saved me? When Ku Rokin thought of this, he angrily kicked the medical chamber. Who needs you to save me? Mind your own business. After venting his anger on the medical chamber, Ku Rokin felt a lot better. He had been to the emergency response center before, so he knew where the emergency response center's exit was. So Ku Rokin was ready to leave and return to the ground to find the main force of the sword bearers. As a result, near the exit, he suddenly found a girl lying on the ground. The girl was about 7 or 8 years old, and she looked very cute. She had 9 thin ponytails on her head. Cute, very cute. Is there anyone else who has been rescued? Ku Rokin thought that this was the person who was rescued by Ju Wudao, so he did not have much doubt. He used his finger to feel the little Loli's nose and found that her breathing was very even. She should have just fallen asleep. So, he did not pay too much attention to it. He stepped over the little Loli's body and prepared to leave through the exit. However, after taking a few steps, Ku Rokin returned. He picked up the little Loli, found 2 chairs, put the little Loli on the chairs, and left again. It seemed that Ku Rokin was worried that the little girl would catch a cold. He was really kind-hearted. However, after a few steps, Ku Rokin returned for the second time. He picked up the little Loli, smiled bitterly, and shook his head. He supported his injured body and left the emergency response center together. Where am I? Gu Han woke up from his long dream and opened his eyes. He found himself in a room that was as bad as it could get. There was a stench around him, and it felt like he was in a garbage dump. At this time, Gohan had regained control of his body, but only his head. Gohan could slightly turn his neck, but even if it was just a little bit, he would suffer a lot of pain. But pain was nothing to Gohan. Gohan turned left and right and looked around. Oh my God, I'm in a pile of garbage. Gohan was surrounded by all kinds of parts that he didn't know where they came from. These parts emitted a terrible smell. It seemed like they had been in the garbage for a long time. Gohan could even see rotten apples on some of the parts. It was really disgusting. Xianyuan. Xianyuan. Gohan opened his mouth and found that his voice was also hoarse. He spoke intermittently like a broken bellow. You're awake. Xuanyuan's lazy voice rang out. If you want to ask me how you became like this, then I'm sorry, I don't know. No. I just want to thank you for saving Yuzhang City. Gohan's voice became softer and softer, until it was completely inaudible. Obviously, his throat could not support him to continue speaking. Why are you thanking me? This is what I should do. After all, I am the ancestor of the human race. Xian Yuan did not expect Gohan to thank him, and for a moment, he panicked. Forget it. Since you're so sensible, I'll tell you a little about it. Xian Yuan immediately forgot what he had just said. Although you used the power of the 6 Revolutions elixir to defeat the Nether River ancestor, your body could not withstand the power. In the end, I could only disperse the remaining elixir's power and distribute it to various parts of your meridians. So now your body is filled with the remaining power of the 6 Revolutions elixir. It is impossible to convert the elixir into sword essence, but it can be absorbed by your meridians, bones, and flesh. If you successfully absorb the elixir, your body will transform into a half-immortal body, which is equivalent to the body of a Fey-level Yuan Ko. You can completely discard the Sword Mother and use your physical strength to fight against the Fey-level Yuan Ko. What do you think? I treat you very well, like my own son. Of course, it takes time to absorb the elixir. Before a certain part of your body absorbs the elixir, you can't use that part of your body. In other words, you can only lie here and wait for the elixir to be absorbed by you. Alright, I'm sleepy. I'll talk to you after I sleep for 10 days or half a month. Good girl. Good night. After explaining the current state of Gohan's body, the Xianyuan sword completed its task and went to sleep. At the same time, footsteps came from outside the door of the room where Gohan was. It seemed that the owner of the room had arrived. Gohan also knew who brought him here. To be honest, the smell of the room was a little too unfriendly for a sick person. Chapter 567. One of the footsteps was short and hurried, while the other was light and steady. Therefore, Gohan speculated that it should be an adult and a child, a brother and a sister. Sure enough, he soon heard the clear and melodious voice of the younger brother. Sister, sister, this beautiful sister that I picked up is still sleeping. At this time, Gohan did not open his eyes. Instead, he closed his eyes and continued to pretend to be asleep. This way, the people who came in would let their guard down, so that they could say what they wanted to say without hiding anything. Gohan would also be aware of his real situation. It's just that this beautiful sister is still sleeping. What does that mean? Could it be that I'm still in the state of a woman? Suddenly, Gohan wanted to touch his chest to see if he was a man or a woman. Alright, be quiet. Don't wake this sister up. Let her sleep for a while more. The person who responded was a calm girl. However, judging from her voice, she should not be much older. They must be a pair of siblings. Oh, okay. The younger brother's voice instantly became softer. Then, he asked, Sister, how's your business today? The sister was silent for a while. Very good. Many people came to watch Sister's performance today. Sister earned a lot of money today. Really? That's great. The younger brother cheered. Sister, we haven't eaten potatoes for dozens of days. Let's buy some potatoes today to make hot and sour shredded potatoes. Xiao Jian said that people who always eat nutrient solutions will not grow taller. Okay, sister will buy potatoes for you tomorrow. Although the sister agreed very quickly, Gohan could hear the embarrassment in her voice with his eyes closed. It seemed that things were not as this sister said. They had earned a lot of money. At the mention of potatoes, Gohan could not help but think of his favorite hot and sour shredded potatoes when he was young. This was also a somewhat extravagant food for him. However, Gohan's family could eat hot and sour shredded potatoes once or twice a week. Moreover, Gohan's family usually had rice to eat. For ordinary people, potatoes were slightly more expensive than rice. Therefore, Gohan's family could eat potatoes once or twice a week. However, from the conversation just now, the two siblings had not eaten potatoes for dozens of days. Moreover, their main food was nutrient solution. The name sounded very nutritious, but in fact, it was tasteless and could only meet the basic needs of human survival. Nutrient solution was the cheapest food in the city. This food was completely synthesized by the machine. The government distributed it to everyone for free. As long as you needed it, you could get it from the machine on the street. It was like a faucet. As long as you turned the switch, the nutrient solution would flow out. You could eat as much as you wanted. Therefore, the whole of Yuzhong City had achieved something that had not been achieved before the apocalypse. No one had starved to death. However, only the lowest class of people would rely on nutrient solution every day. Families with a bit of ambition would try to let their own family eat delicious white rice. This pair of siblings actually completely used nutrient solution as their main food. From this, it could be seen that they should be in a very poor state. This was not surprising. From the house full of garbage, Gohan could guess a little bit. That sister. Can I watch TV for a while? The younger brother asked timidly. Sure, but not for too long. We don't have much electricity left. We have to last until next month. Do you understand? I'm going to cook for you. The sister said sternly. Hooray, let's go watch cartoons. The younger brother cheered and turned on the TV. The sound of the TV was a little hoarse, and there was a lot of static. It sounded like the speaker of the TV was about to be completely broken. They really were very poor. Gohan heard the sound of the TV constantly changing. Obviously, the younger brother kept changing the channel. After changing about a dozen channels, the younger brother threw the remote control to the side in dissatisfaction. Sister, why aren't you playing cartoons? This should be the Cosmic Superman Patrick Star. Why are all the channels broadcasting the news? It's so boring. Then you should listen to the news. The core city has just struggled out of the disaster. The two of us also escaped from death. It's a good time to listen to the situation now. What the officials of the council plan to do, and whether they will give us some compensation. Helpless, the younger brother could only listen to his sister and watch the news. Thanks to this news, Gohan finally had a certain understanding of Yuzhong City after he was in a coma. A very haggard female anchor quickly reported. According to incomplete statistics, after the end of the Great Attack, 71 million people in the core city went missing, 25 million died, and 390,000 survived. A large number of skeletons were placed in the temporary disposal center of what used to be the commercial CBD. Those who can't find their families can go to the temporary disposal center to claim their families' remains. The Sword Council's Temporary Aftermath Committee reminds everyone that if the remains of your family can't be found in the temporary disposal center, please don't be sad. The Sword Council will build a unified memorial for the missing, and everyone can express their grief at the memorial. According to the news from the Sword Council's Temporary Aftermath Committee, all the remaining Yuan-ko in the periphery of Yuzhong City have retreated. The army of sword-bearers in Yeyang Fortress has returned. The cleanup of the remaining Yuan-ko in the city is being carried out in an orderly manner. 99% of the remaining Yuan-ko have been cleaned up. If you find any fish that escaped the net, please immediately call the communication number, XXXXX. A professional team of sword-bearers will contact you and carry out the cleanup. Yesterday, under the command of the Sword Council's chairman, Sword Pavilion Master Cloudy Sword Immortal Lu Lei, all the missing spirit sword-level sword-bearers have returned from Heim Prison. The vital signs of all spirit sword-level sword-bearers are good, and the safety of Yuzhong City has been further improved. In the Sword Council's regular press conference this morning, Sword Immortal Lu Lei, the Tiger Roar Sword Spirit, the Pleated Sword Spirit, and the other three spirit sword-level sword-bearers held a meeting and made a speech. The Tiger Roar Sword Spirit called on us to unite with Lord Lu Lei as the core, to save ourselves, and to rebuild the beautiful new core area. At the press conference, Sword Immortal Cloudy Sword revealed to us that the Sword Bearers Service Center has been seriously damaged and will take more than 3 months to recover. Before that, all the sword bearers will be transferred to the temporary Sword Bearers Service Center in the ordinary area. At the same time, it will be changed to a temporary center that can only handle some matters. Please wait patiently for the new Sword Bearers Service Center to be completed. At the same time, Sword Immortal Cloudy Sword severely refuted the rumor that all the sword ladies of the Sword Pavilion have been lost. Sword Immortal Cloudy Sword told us that the Sword Pavilion has been under a strong attack, and the buildings have been seriously damaged. The Sword Pavilion will conduct closed-door maintenance for more than a month, and all the sword ladies are intact. He warned all those who spread this false news with ulterior motives, once found, will be severely punished. At the end of the press conference, Sword Immortal Cloudy Sword once again issued a search order to all the residents of the city. Anyone who has any clues about our respected and brave temporary chief commander, Lord Gohan, will be rewarded with 100,000 to 10 million renminbi. Below are the photos of Lord Gohan, and please pay attention to the search. Yesterday, we interviewed the urban planning expert, Professor Su. He said that the population of the core area has been greatly damaged. In order to restore the population of the core area, the Sword Committee and the Council will definitely relax the requirement of merit points for ordinary people to enter the core area. This will probably be implemented after the Council is reorganized. However, the people in the normal area have expressed their reluctance to enter the core area, saying that the normal area is safer. Like the sun, the memorial service for the former chairman of the Sword Committee, Sword Immortal Baiju Wudao, will be held in the Heavenly Heart Pavilion in the normal area tomorrow. A public memorial service will be held at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Millions of people in Yuzhong City will kneel before Lord Wudao's coffin to express their grief. Here is the latest news that our station has received. A joint condolence group formed by Yenjing City, London City, and Buenos Aires City will arrive in Yuzhong City in 5 days. At that time, they will conduct a joint condolence for Yuzhong City for 10 days, and will launch a comprehensive aid work for Yuzhong City. One side is in trouble. Help is coming from all sides. Love is boundless in the world. The TV stopped abruptly at this point. Her sister must have finished cooking and turned off the power in order to save electricity. Luin, eat properly. I'll go feed this sister. After saying this, Gohan felt someone holding his head up, opening his mouth, and pouring some colorless and odorless nutrient solution into his mouth. She waited for the nutrient solution to flow down his throat before pouring some more. In terms of feeding, this sister was undoubtedly doing a great job. It's already been 10 days, and the core area is still in chaos. I don't have enough money, what should I do? The older sister whispered worriedly as she fed Gohan. Previously, she had mentioned that she relied on performing to earn money. Perhaps she could have earned quite a lot of money when the core area was in a state of prosperity, but now that the core area was in a mess, who would be interested in watching performances? This older sister's livelihood had probably been cut off. Cough, cough. Perhaps because sister was thinking about something, she accidentally spat a mouthful of nutrient solution into Gohan's mouth. Gohan realized that he should take the initiative to swallow it, but his movements could not keep up with his thoughts. It was the first time in his life that Gohan was choked by nutrient solution. He started coughing violently, and even his eyes opened. That's great. You're finally awake. Forget it, Gohan could not continue acting. Chapter 568. Why am here. Who are you? Gohan's throat could not be used normally. Gohan could only use a very soft voice to say a few words. The sister had to put her ear on Gohan's mouth to hear what Gohan was saying. We are all civilians from the core area. We found you in the furniture city, and found you unconscious. You were covered in blood and your gadget was missing. We could only bring you to my house to recuperate. The sister explained, My name is Lu Shihua, and this is my brother Luin. Don't worry, we are not bad people. If you want to leave, you can do so at any time. Thank you. You can't move now. Gohan couldn't finish his words. His throat couldn't take it anymore. He had to rest for a while before he could continue speaking. It's okay, Mississippi. You can rest here for as long as you want. Sister Lu Shihua said gently. Then, she left Gohan's side and went to do something with her brother. Gohan didn't know what to do. Gohan could calm down and combine the information he had just learned from the TV to put a simple end to his current situation. First of all, his body was still that of a girl. From what Xin Yuan said, before he completely absorbed the remaining power of the 6 revolutions pill, he wouldn't be able to regain his male body. Secondly, his master, Lu Lei, was still alive and was constantly looking for clues about him. Most importantly, all the innate sword ladies of the Sword Pavilion were with him. Without them, the Sword Pavilion would definitely be in a state of panic. Lu Lei didn't refute any rumors. Everyone was in a state of panic. If he didn't send the natural sword maidens back, Yuzhang City would be in chaos again. I can't let my master worry about me and these natural sword maidens. I have to send them all back. Gohan thought silently. Logically speaking, the best thing he could do now was to tell the Lu siblings his true identity, and then have them send him to Lu Lei's place. Gohan would definitely be able to enjoy 100 times more care than here. Unfortunately, Gohan gave up on this idea without even thinking about it. What a joke. His current body was Gu Xuanyuan's body. How could Gohan use this body to meet Lu Lei, Misaka Mikoto, and Song Hama? Gohan made up his mind. Before he regained his gender, he would hide here to recuperate. He wouldn't go anywhere and wouldn't see any friends. However, Gohan felt that he should at least give Lu Lei the dimensional pouch filled with the natural sword maidens. It had been 10 days. The natural sword maidens had been missing for 10 days. Lu Lei probably wouldn't be able to have a good night's sleep. He couldn't let Lu Lei worry about the natural sword maidens anymore. He had to find a way to return the dimensional pouch to Lu Lei. The problem was that Gohan didn't want to show his face. Moreover, his gadget had completely disappeared when his body was transformed. Gohan couldn't contact anyone he knew. How could he safely pass these things to Lu Lei without revealing his face? Gohan fell into deep thought. Luin, take good care of this lady at home. I'll go out and see if there's any work to be done. After Lu Shihua finished his meal, he rushed out again, leaving his brother Lu Yin alone in the house. Gohan was currently trying to communicate with his sword maidens. However, because of the 6 revolutions elixir, Gohan couldn't enter his purple mansion to find his sword mark. Not being able to find the sword mark meant that Gohan couldn't communicate with Qinpin and the others. In fact, Gohan didn't even know what happened to Qinpin and the others. Back then, Qinpin and the others had been killed by the Nether River Patriarch in order to protect him. They fell into the Blood Sea, and he didn't know where they were now. If not for the faint connection between him and the 3 sword maidens, Gohan suspected that they might have been broken by the Nether River Patriarch's attack. As long as his sword mark was still there, even if Qinpin and the others were temporarily separated from him, they would return to him sooner or later. As long as he regained control over his sword mark and they weren't broken, they would immediately return to him. There was no possibility of losing them. Qinpin, Doyu and Etian had gone missing because they took a bullet for him, but Juzi should have been by his side when he fainted. He still had a sword maiden, but where was she? Gohan slowly turned his neck and looked at the tall pile of discarded parts around him. This was the first time Gohan had carefully observed these parts, and found that they were all taken from various electronic waste. At this moment there was a little boy who was about 1. for meters tall and so skinny that even his bones could be seen. He was sitting on top of the pile of parts, fiddling with the parts in his hand. Hey! Hey! Gohan called out. Lu Yin's little ears twitched. He looked up and jumped down from the pile of parts. Beautiful sister, I'm not called Hey. I have a name, I'm Lu Yin. Lu as in highway, Yin as in invisible. The first thing the little boy did when he jumped down was to correct Gohan's way of addressing him. But how could this little boy be so glib at such a young age? How could he call her beautiful sister so smoothly? Lu Yin. Hello. Gohan still used up a lot of energy to speak. Let me ask you, when you found me, did you see a girl in black clothes? A girl in black clothes. Lu Yin thought for a moment, then shook his head decisively. Beautiful sister, you were found by me. There was no one else around you. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been left there. Sword, black sword, did you see? Gohan asked again. Black sword? I don't think I've seen this before. Lu Yin touched his head and thought for a moment. Then he patted his head hard. But I found a video camera beside you. I took it back. See if it's your video, beautiful sister. Lu Yin scurried into his pile of parts. After a while, he jumped down with a video camera. It was the camera that Juzi Sword used to record him. There was no mistake. Beautiful sister, is this camera yours? I swear to God, I haven't seen the video inside. Lu Yin raised his little hand and promised. It's mine. Gohan nodded with difficulty. Just as he was about to say something, he heard a knock on the door. Strange, who's knocking on the door? Is sister back? Lu Yin felt strange when he heard the knock on the door. He and his sister depended on each other. Apart from his sister, no one else had ever knocked on his door. But after his sister went out, it would take at least 1 or 2 hours for her to return. Who was knocking on the door now? Lu Yin hurried to the door. His door didn't even have a keyhole. He could only open the door nervously. In the end, he saw a cold and elegant girl in dirty black clothes standing in front of his door. Hello! Although this girl's body was dirty, it couldn't hide the girl's beauty. If Lu Yin hadn't seen Gohan's beauty and gotten used to it, he might have started drooling and giggling when he saw this girl. Master is here. There's Master's smell here. Without waiting for Lu Yin to speak, the cold and elegant girl walked into the room. Lu Yin suddenly realized and hurriedly followed the girl into the room. It stinks. Disgusting, disgusting. As soon as the cold and elegant girl entered the room, she pointed out the sour and rotten smell in the room and expressed her evaluation. This made Lu Yin feel ashamed. Sorry, it's all my fault for collecting these things. Lu Yin murmured. Unfortunately, the cold and elegant girl didn't care about what he said. She suddenly knelt beside Gohan and said respectfully, Master, Juzi finally found you. Good. Good. Gohan said excitedly. He was just thinking about how Juzi's sword was missing and how he couldn't contact her through the sword mark. Just when he was worrying about where to find her, Juzi's sword actually took the initiative to appear in front of Gohan. Juzi, where did you go? Pitiful, Gohan's voice was seriously out of tune. When he said Juzi, it became Juzi. I was sleeping in the cabinet. When I woke up, Master was gone. Juzi's sword's face was calm. The smell on the ground is very faint. I looked for a long time before I found this place. Hearing Juzi Sword's words, Lu Yin couldn't help but be puzzled. What did she mean by the smell on the ground is very faint? Could it be that this cold and elegant girl found this place by smelling the smell on the ground? In fact, until a few years later, some of the survivors in the core region would vividly describe to their friends the scene of a young girl sniffing the ground like a puppy. This scene was truly unforgettable for them for the rest of their lives. You've worked hard. Gohan was also a little touched. Although this Juzi looked a little stiff, she was actually willing to find him and lie on the ground to smell his smell. This kind of loyalty, Gohan dared to guarantee that even Qin Pin and Doyu couldn't do it, let alone Tian. Master, please give me the task. Juzy's sword raised its head high. This guy seemed to have said the same thing to it when the synchronization was completed. Go into my clothes and take out a brocade pouch. After Gohan finished speaking, Juzy's sword unceremoniously reached into Gohan's clothes. Because Gohan lost control of his body, he didn't feel anything, but Lu Yin was dumbfounded. What did he see? A cold and elegant girl actually reached her hand into the clothes of another peerless beauty. As a result, this peerless beauty's clothes began to shake wantonly, causing the young Lu Yin's heart to feel inexplicably shy. Ahem, fortunately, Lu Yin was only a child who wasn't even 10 years old. In any case, he should at least pay attention to his image. Chapter 569. When Juzy's sword took the dimensional bag that contained all the natural sword ladies and left to give it to Lu Lei, Gohan was quite relieved. He felt that he had finally put down a rock. However, a few hours later, his sister Lu Shihua came back from outside and told Lu Yin that there was a cold and elegant girl walking in circles in front of her house. She looked very strange, so Gohan could only ask Lu Shihua to bring Juzy's sword back. Juzy! Why is she walking? Gohan asked helplessly. Master's master. Smell. I don't know. It seemed like Juzy's sword could only rely on smell to find people. Even though Gohan had given the address of the sword pavilion in great detail, Juzy's sword didn't seem to know what Gohan was talking about. This made Gohan very distressed. He didn't expect Juzy's sword to have a poor sense of direction. Juzy isn't a poor sense of direction, Master. As if understanding Gohan's thoughts, Juzy said with conviction, Juzy can remember all the places that Juzy has been to. Well, regardless of whether Juzy was a poor sense of direction or not, Lu Shihua's gaze towards Gohan was filled with suspicion. Lu Shihua was filled with vigilance towards this girl who suddenly appeared and called Guan Guhan Master. This pair of beautiful girls could be said to be peerless in their generation. Miss, since your family has found you, can you leave now? Lu Shihua was ready to chase her away. No. I can't leave here. Gohan couldn't move his hands and feet, and even his divine sense couldn't leave his brain. Even if there were many treasures in the dimensional bag, and there were 3 universe realm Yuan Ko, he couldn't take them out. This was because his divine sense couldn't enter the dimensional bag, and couldn't take out the things inside. Once Gohan left this place, he would probably have to sleep on the street. Sleeping on the streets was one thing, but what was terrifying was Gohan's current devastatingly beautiful appearance. Gohan knew how devastatingly attractive his current appearance was to normal men. He believed that if he slept on the streets, he would definitely receive some chilling treatment. Even Gohan couldn't help but feel a little creeped out. Therefore, Gohan made up his mind to not leave this place at least before he regained his mobility. Seeing the sorrowful expression on Gu Xian Yuan's beautiful face, Lu Shihua's mind instantly filled in a lot of scenes. What family grudges, Liang Shanbo and Zhu Yingtai, and so on. Lu Shihua was immediately filled with pity for Gu Xian Yuan. Alright, if you don't mind my place being too smelly, too messy, and I only have nutrient fluids for food, you can stay here for as long as you want. Lu Shihua's heart softened in the end. Next was dinner time. As usual, Gohan was allocated a bowl of nutrient fluids, and so was Juzy. Seeing that Juzy addressed Gu Xian Yuan as master, he naturally thought that Juzy was Gu Xian Yuan's maid, so he handed over the task of feeding Gu Xian Yuan to Juzy. The result was very funny. After Juzy poured the nutrient fluids into Gohan's nostrils for the 3rd time, Lu Shihua had no choice but to take over the task of feeding Gu Xian Yuan. When the lanterns were lit, there was only a weak light in Lu Shihua's house. With the help of this weak light, Lu Yin was still fiddling with a game helmet in his hand. This was the dedicated game helmet for Sword Maiden Online. Although Sword Maiden Online could be played by personal terminals, if one used a dedicated game helmet, one could experience a better game effect. So, Gohan usually used a game helmet to play games at home. The game helmet in Lu Yin's hand looked like it was decades old. It was gray, and the paint on it was mottled. It was probably thrown away by someone, and then Lu Yin picked it up. Damn it! Which welding pin is the problem? Lu Yin tried wearing the helmet for a long time, but he still couldn't use it. He was so angry that he threw the helmet on Gu Xianyuan. Beautiful sister. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. Lu Yin quickly jumped down, picked up the helmet, and said apologetically. Although he already knew Gu Xianyuan's name, Lu Yin was still used to calling Gohan beautiful sister. Regarding this, Gohan expressed helplessness. Forget it, I'm living under someone else's roof. As long as you're happy. P.S. The names Gu Xianyuan and Gohan seem to be used a little incorrectly. Author, please explain. When describing Gohan's consciousness, use Gohan, and when describing Gohan's body, use Gu Xianyuan. Looking at the game helmet, Gohan suddenly had an idea. Since he couldn't contact them in real life, he could contact them through the game. As long as he could find Song Hama in the game, he could get him to tell his master that he was safe. He could also tell him a place to bring the dimensional brocade pouch containing the natural sword Maiden to Lu Lei. This was indeed a good idea, so it was especially important to fix the helmet in Lu Yin's hand. If he couldn't fix the helmet, Gohan's idea of contacting him through the game would be an illusion. Lu Yin. That helmet. Where is it broken? Gu Xianyuan's voice was much better than before. Although she was still stuttering, her voice was much louder. This meant that Gohan's body was constantly absorbing the medicinal power of the 6 Revolutions immortal pill. Back then, Gohan had also studied the game helmet for a while. Although he didn't know much, he might be able to find the problem with the helmet and then fix it. It seems like there's a problem with this chip. There are 268 soldering pins here. I've already welded them over 100 times, but I can't find the right welding method. Lu Yin already knew what the problem was, but he couldn't find the right welding pins. He could only use the stupidest method to test them one by one. Regarding this, Gohan could only express his helplessness. He didn't know anything about welding pins. Just when the whole thing seemed to have reached a stalemate, the silent Juzi sword suddenly spoke. Master, do you want to fix this thing? Yeah. Gu Xianyuan snorted and didn't take Juzi sword's words to heart. However, what happened next stunned Lu Yin. Juzi sword suddenly took the helmet from Lu Yin's hand and then took Lu Yin's tin welding pen. Both hands started working at the same time. Lu Yin only saw that his eyes were dazzled for a while. His eyes were filled with the afterimages of Juzi's hands. It was as if he saw dozens of hands appearing at the same time. In less than 10 seconds, Juzi threw the helmet back into Lu Yin's arms. It's fixed. Try it. Juzi's sword said coldly. Are you kidding me? Lu Yin put the game helmet on his head in disbelief. In less than 10 seconds, he took off the helmet with a face full of excitement. Oh my God, this is incredible! Sister Juzi, you actually fixed this helmet. Because of Gu Xianyuan's magical accent, Lu Yin and Lu Shihua thought that Juzi sword's name was Juzi. Although they felt that the name was very strange, she was a maid from a rich family. It was normal for her to have a strange name. Juzi's sword was quite indifferent to Lu Yin's surprise, as if it was just a trivial matter. Oh right, Gohan remembered that Juzi's sword was the sword of Moz, the founder of the Mo family. Moz was known as the first scientist in China. As Moz's sword, it was normal for Juzi's sword to know some skills. However, could it be that during the spring and autumn warring states period, there was already such a thing as a game helmet? Sister Juzi, teach me how to fix the game helmet. On the other side, Lu Yin excitedly and pleadingly pulled Juzi's sword's hand. Sister Juzi, please, teach me. Unfortunately, Juzi's sword was indifferent to Lu Yin's request. I know, I've seen it on TV before. These are all secret. Only by worshipping Sister Juzi as my master will Sister Juzi teach me these things, right? Lu Yin said as he prepared to kneel in front of Juzi's sword and worship Juzi's sword as his master. However, when Lu Yin knelt down, he found that Juzi's sword was no longer in front of him. Instead, it was kneeling beside Gu Xianyuan, and placed the game helmet next to Gu Xianyuan's head. Lu Yin. Helmet? Can you lend it to me? Gu Xianyuan asked with her big bright eyes. Okay. Anyway, I'm only 10 years old and can't use it. This was also repaired by Sister's maid. Beautiful sister can use it. After getting Lu Yin's approval, with the help of Juzi's sword, this old game helmet was finally put on Gohan's head. Genetic test, normal. Welcome back to the game. Player military governor. After the light dimmed and brightened, the system notification said that after almost 2 months, Gohan finally entered the game and returned to the Ming Dynasty Jiangnan luxurious manner in the game. In the game, Gohan finally got rid of the embarrassment of not being able to control his own body in reality and became a normal man again. That's right, a normal man. The first thing Gohan did when he entered the game was to touch his chest and crotch. Fortunately, Gohan and everything else were still there. He was still the real Gohan in the game. At this moment, Gohan was standing in the main hall. There was a maid NPC serving him with her head lowered. He thought about King Yu, who he didn't know where. This scene in the game actually made Gohan feel like he had returned home. Let me ask you, where is King Yu now? The first thing Gohan did was to find King Yu. The last time he left the game, he told King Yu that he would be back in 20 days and at most a month. In the end, it had already been around 50 days. With King Yu's personality, she probably hated him to death by now. He didn't know how to comfort her so that she would forgive him. What was more terrifying was that he had promised King Yu. Now, he might really have to go back on his word. Is Master asking about Madam? The maid suddenly said something that made Gohan sigh. Yes, I'm asking about Madam. Gohan nodded and admitted it. Master, Madam knows that Yuzhong City is in the midst of a war. She has been praying for Master in the temple day and night. She hasn't eaten or come out for 25 days. King Yu. Gohan lowered his head and his body actually trembled. This was the first time in his life that he was afraid. This was the first time he felt that he didn't have the face to see a woman. Chapter 570. In the Ming Dynasty, large families would set up a small Buddhist hall in the east. They would usually worship Guanyin Bodhisattva. The elders of the family would kneel and pray in the Buddhist hall every day, praying for the prosperity of their family and the safety of their descendants. Gohan's house was no exception. Moreover, the Buddhist hall wasn't small. It was as big as 3 bedrooms and 2 living rooms. Gohan pushed aside the curtains and saw King Yu's thin figure kneeling in front of Guanyin Bodhisattva, chanting. Actually, the sword lady in the game couldn't be fat or thin. King Yu hadn't eaten for 25 days. Even if he hadn't eaten for 25 years, he wouldn't lose any weight. However, in Gohan's eyes, he clearly felt that King Yu was much thinner and more haggard. Bodhisattva, please bless me. Please bless the military governor well outside the game. Please bless Yuzhong City to survive this calamity. Please bless him to be able to come back and see King Yu. King Yu sincerely prayed to the Bodhisattva. These words made Gohan feel especially touched and awkward. He didn't know what to do. There's no need to pray to them. King Yu, I'm back. Gohan took a step forward and pulled King Yu into his embrace. He sniffed the scent on King Yu's body. There was an inexplicable sour smell. This fellow hadn't bathed for 25 days, right? The moment King Yu was hugged by Gohan, his body trembled and became extremely stiff. It was as if he had been frozen. After a while, he said, I'm back. I'm back. Gohan helped King Yu up from the ground. Perhaps because he had been kneeling for too long, he couldn't maintain his standing posture after Gohan helped him up. His body trembled, and he could only rely on Gohan's support to stand there. "You don't need to help me. I can stand up myself." Even though his body was still trembling, King Yu was still stubborn and insisted on standing up by himself. If it was Gohan who had just entered the game, he would definitely listen to King Yu's words and let her go, leaving her to die on her own. But now, how could Gohan do such a thing? Instead, he hugged King Yu even tighter. "Boring pervert," King Yu said hatefully, his face flushed from the corners of his eyes to the tips of his ears. "Why didn't you die in Yuzhong City? I could have escaped from your clutches and didn't have to suffer like this. Why are you still being so stubborn at a time like this?" Gohan hugged King Yu. "If I really die, you won't be able to live either. You bastard, sob sob." Hearing Gohan's words, King Yu finally couldn't hold back his emotions and burst into tears in Gohan's arms. "You pervert, shameless bastard. If you die, of course I won't be able to live." Gohan let King Yu vent his emotions in his arms. He cried for half an hour until King Yu was tired. Then, Gohan took out a carved wooden bed from his pocket and placed it in the temple hall. He carried King Yu to the bed. "You must be tired. Rest here for a while. Have a good sleep." Gohan took out another quilt and covered King Yu with it. He carefully pinched the corner of the quilt. "Have a good sleep. I have something to do with Song Hama. I'll come back to accompany you later." After saying that, Gohan was about to get up and leave. But as soon as he stood up, he felt the corner of his clothes being grabbed softly. King Yu's white and tender hand reached out from the quilt and grabbed the corner of Gohan's clothes. Her stubborn eyes were full of pleading as she looked at Gohan. Her small mouth opened and closed. It was hard to hear what she said, but Gohan could tell from her mouth that she said, "Don't go. Forget it, I don't lack this bit of time." Gohan sat down again. The two were silent for a while. Gohan was the first to break the silence. "You don't need to do this anymore. You can only rely on your own effort. What does it have to do with those gods and Buddhas? Why do you need to beg them?" Gohan grabbed King Yu's hand and said, "Always ask for something." King Yu smiled. "Didn't you come back safely? But there's no need to ask for these things." Gohan glanced at the statue of Guanyin Bodhisattva. "Take the Guanyin you worship for example. He's not a god or Buddha that protects us. He's just a selfish stinky Taoist, a universe-level Yuan Ko. Moreover, he's a man, yet he has the face to dress up as a woman. Guanyin Bodhisattva, this deity whom the descendants of Yen and Huang had once worshipped the most, had actually appeared in the real world with the identity of Yuan Yen after the Great Calamity. As soon as she had appeared, she had sent a whole 3,000 commoners to the western Pure Land of ultimate bliss. P.S. The author hesitated for a while about the Guanyin Bodhisattva, but he still explained it. After all, many readers might be Buddhists, and there might be some religious aspects involved. Therefore, the author would like to clarify that the Guanyin Bodhisattva in the book only became Yuan Ko and slaughtered commoners because of the plot. It has nothing to do with the real Guanyin Bodhisattva. The author doesn't have any intention of slandering the Guanyin Bodhisattva. In addition, Guanyin Bodhisattva seemed to be the image of a natural female, but in reality, Guanyin Bodhisattva was 100% a man. Guanyin Bodhisattva was originally the 9th disciple of the primeval lord of Taoism, Taoist Ci Hang. She was taken in by Taoist Kundi in the myriad immortal formation and became the Guanyin Bodhisattva in Buddhism. Taoist Ci Hang didn't want to become a disciple of Buddhism, so he never used his real body. He only used a female incarnation to do things for Buddhism, accumulating virtue and doing good deeds. Most people saw Taoist Ci Hang's female incarnation, so there were rumors that Guanyin Bodhisattva was a woman. Thinking about it carefully, this Guanyin Bodhisattva could be said to be the first trap in China's history. P.S. The author likes the setting of the Great Desolation, so all the settings of the deities in China are based on the Great Desolation. If there are readers who don't understand the Great Desolation, you can search it on Baidu or read novels about the Great Desolation, such as Buddha is the Way. However, the fact that Guanyin Bodhisattva was actually a man was not fake, because even in the Buddhist scriptures, Guanyin had the body of a man. In all the Buddhist scriptures before the Tang dynasty, Guanyin had the body of a man, and the Buddha statue was also a male Buddha statue. However, in the era of Wu Zetian, there was a monk who wanted to curry favor with Wu Zetian and spread Buddhism. Thus, he wrote a Buddhist scripture that said that Wu Zetian was actually the reincarnation of Guanyin Bodhisattva, the master of destiny, and Guanyin Bodhisattva was originally a woman. When Wu Zetian saw this, she was naturally very happy. Thus, she wantonly promoted Guanyin Bodhisattva and personally confirmed that Guanyin was a woman. With Wu Zetian's will, who in the world disobeyed? Thus, from Wu Zetian onwards, Guanyin Bodhisattva gradually became a woman. Tsk. King Yu glanced at Gohan unhappily. Gohan knew that he had gone overboard. King Yu had prayed for him for 25 days out of goodwill. No matter what Guanyin was, King Yu's intentions were irrefutable. King Yu, I understand what you're thinking. I'll remember your feelings for me, Gohan. You prayed for me for 25 days, and I, Gohan, will remember it for the rest of my life. I won't let you down. Gohan's hand touched King Yu's face as he said this affectionately. King Yu's face became redder and redder. In the end, he covered his head with the blanket and said through the blanket, "Who prayed for you for 25 days? I just heard that Yuzhong City was attacked by Yuan Ko, so I prayed for all of Yuzhong City. You were just included in it. Who prayed for you?" Even at this point, King Yu's mouth was still so stubborn. He didn't want to admit that he was praying for Gohan no matter what. Is that so? Hearing King Yu's words, Gohan's heart skipped a beat. He said with a pained tone, "I was wondering why I was paralyzed on the bed. So it was because you prayed for me." "What, you're injured? Paralyzed on the bed?" When King Yu heard that Gohan was injured, he immediately pulled down the blanket and revealed a nervous face. "How could this be? Why am I paralyzed? Didn't you say it's the med bay? Can't the med bay cure all diseases?" "This is the power of Nether River Patriarch. How can a normal med bay cure me?" Gohan sighed and told him half the truth. "My body is now filled with Nether River Patriarch's immortal power. I can't move anything except my head. The med bay and current medical technology can't do anything about this immortal power. I can only wait for it to dissipate. How could this be?" When King Yu heard Gohan's condition, his face was full of sorrow and pain. "It's all my fault. I'm lazy and only recited your name 999 times a day. If I worked harder and recited it 9,999 times, you would definitely. Thank you 999 times." Before King Yu could finish, Gohan lowered his head and kissed King Yu's lip. King Yu's eyes widened because Gohan's tongue came in without any warning. King Yu wanted to resist, but when his tongue came into contact with Gohan's, he and Gohan were entangled. Their wet tongues entangled each other like a butterfly knot. Annoying! King Yu hugged Gohan's waist and pulled Gohan, who was sitting on the bed, onto him. He grabbed Gohan's soft flesh tightly. The two of them were separated by a blanket for a long time before Gohan got up from King Yu's body. "Alright, King Yu, you're too tired. Rest well. I'm going to find Song Hama." Gohan started to tidy up his messy clothes as if he had just finished something. Chapter 571. Wait! Queen Yu sat up from the bed. "Why do you have to go now? Can't you contact Song Hama in real life? In the game, can't you stay with me?" Only the heavens knew how much courage it took for Queen Yu to say that. This caused Gohan to stop. After a while, Gohan shook her head and gave Queen Yu a warm smile. "Some things can only be explained in the game. Queen Yu, don't worry. I'm heavily injured this time, and I'll have to lie in bed for at least 10 days. I'll stay with you in the game during this time. Gohan was right. In the siblings' house, Gohan had nothing to do but play the game. If he didn't stay in the game, Gohan didn't know how to pass the time. Okay. Then hurry up and leave. Go do your things, I'll sleep for a while. When Queen Yu heard that Gohan was going to stay with her in the game for 10 days, she was overjoyed and forgot about Gohan's impending departure. She urged Gohan to leave with a look of disgust. When Gohan really left, Queen Yu felt sleepy. She hadn't slept for 25 days. If she wasn't a sword maiden, she wouldn't have been able to hold on. Idiot, I could have improved a bit more. I was mentally prepared. Queen Yu muttered as she slowly fell asleep. I really hope that Gohan can become a famed sword wielder. I really hope that I can be with Gohan forever in real life. After leaving his house, Gohan walked on the streets of Yuzhong City. He found bright red flags hanging everywhere with Yuzhong City's emblem on them. All the walls had turned blood red, and golden words were written on them. Good luck, Yuzhong. Gohan checked the forum again. All the popular posts were related to the attack in Yuzhong City, such as discussing the battle situation, analyzing why Yuzhong City was victorious, reviewing the entire battle situation, commending the heroic deeds of the sword-bearers, discussing the gains and losses of the attack, and redebating the safety of the quantum teleportation array. Of course, the most shocking news was that the military governor's real identity had been discovered. It was said that the sword-bearers said that Yuzhong City could not be saved. Yuan Ko, who was in the core zone, could break through to the normal zone at any time. It was the military governor who descended from the sky like a god, leading more than 1,000 sword-bearers into the core area, protecting the last hope of Yuzhong City and successfully saving the entire city. However, the news of the military governor's identity was strictly controlled by Yuzhong City officials. The sword-bearers who knew the true identity of the military governor were warned by Yuzhong City. Before the military governor officially announced his identity, no one was allowed to spread the name of the military governor. However, Gohan noticed that there was a very popular post that listed several strong candidates for the military governor, such as Ku Rakin, the son of the deceased sword immortal Baiju, and Lei Mu, who led the rescue of the sword-bearers. Even Liu Ling's name appeared, because it was said that Liu Ling was in Yuzhong City at the time. It was only at the last post that Gohan saw Gohan's name appear. According to the original poster, Gohan was the most likely candidate. This was because Gohan had announced to all of Yuzhong City that he had become the temporary commander-in-chief of Yuzhong City, and that he had opened the emergency evacuation system of Yuzhong City. However, ever since Yuzhong City regained control, there was news of Gohan's disappearance. Yuzhong City's TV station broadcasted Gohan's missing notice 30 times a day. It was likely that Gohan had died at the hands of Yuan Ko, and even his corpse had been eaten. At the end of the post, combined with the fact that he had not been online for 10 days, the original poster began to suspect that the military governor was Gohan, and concluded that the military governor was also dead. There are still some smart people in this world. Gohan curled his lips, closed the forum, and opened his address book. What disappointed Gohan was that Song Hama was not online. She had also not been online for more than 10 days. This proved that Song Hama had not been online since Yuzhong City was restored. Toad, nothing must happen to you. An ominous feeling welled up in Gohan's heart. Could it be that Song Hama had died in the Great Attack? After Gohan ended his communication with Song Hama, he had not contacted Song Hama again. Gohan thought that since he had opened the evacuation system, Song Hama must have been safely in the shelter, and nothing could have happened to him. Could it be that something had happened after that? Maybe Toad just didn't have time to log in. This guy might be looking for me day and night, and it's possible that he didn't have time to log in. Gohan thought silently. He looked at the other active names in the communication. Among them, Bright Moon's name was the most prominent. F*CK. It's you, military governor. I thought you were dead. As soon as the communication was connected, Bright Moon of the Year started talking. TSK, when I saw Gohan go missing, I really thought you were dead. I cried for 4 to 5 days because of you. You have to compensate me for my tears. Gohan did not care about Mingyu's crazy words. By the way, where are you right now? If you are, hurry up and look for Sword Immortal Cloud Sky. TSK, all the primetime TV stations are broadcasting your missing person notices. That's at least tens of millions in advertising fees. Bright Moon of the Year said with a sigh. I know all this. I'm in some trouble now, and it's not convenient for me to show up. Sister Bright Moon, please don't spread my news around. Gohan explained and then asked, Sister Bright Moon, I just want to ask you, how is Toad? Has he contacted you in real life? Toad? You don't know about Toad. Bright Moon of the Year first sighed in shock, then fell silent for a long time. After a while she said, At first, I was also wondering why Toad didn't come online. Later, I called his house and found out that Toad is in a bad situation. What's wrong? What's wrong with Toad? Gohan asked anxiously. Toad was Gohan's only best friend. In Gohan's heart, Toad's position was almost on par with his sword lady's. He's fine. He came out after staying in the medical pod for a few days. However, Toad's cloud-cast iron was broken. I heard that Toad was the last to cover the retreat of the civilians. He was surrounded by more than 10 Yuan Ko at the same time. It was cloud-cast iron who sacrificed his life and used his body to block in front of Toad. Then, he kicked Toad into the escape tunnel, leaving cloud-cast iron outside. After coming out of the shelter, there were only 2 pieces of the cast cloud iron left. That's why Toad hasn't said a word or eaten anything for the past few days. It's like he's in a vegetative state. If it weren't for his parents forcefully feeding him nutrient solutions, Toad would have starved to death. Finally, from Bright Moon of the Year, Song Hama's current situation, Gohan let out a sigh of relief. At the same time, he fell into sorrow. Although Song Hama didn't have a good relationship with Cloud-Cast Iron on the surface, and they often quarreled, Cloud-Cast Iron's position in Song Hama's heart was undeniable. Gohan was even sure that Song Hama's feelings for Cloud-Cast Iron were much deeper than his feelings for Qinpin, Doyu, Heavenly Reliance, Yuwang, and any of the other sword ladies. Cloud-Cast Iron's broken was undoubtedly a huge blow to Song Hama. I should think of a way to cheer Toad up. Maybe I should go comfort Toad. As Gohan thought of this, he said to Bright Moon of the Year, Sister Bright Moon, can I trouble you to call Toad's family again and ask Toad to come online? I want to talk to him. Oh, no problem. After saying that, Bright Moon of the Year hung up the call. The address book quickly showed that Bright Moon of the Year had gone offline. Gohan waited for a while before Bright Moon of the Year came online again. However, Bright Moon of the Year said very helplessly that Song Hama's family had moved. That phone number had been cancelled, and Song Hama didn't answer anyone's calls, so there was no way to send a message to Song Hama. Since Song Hama couldn't be counted on, Gohan could only think of another way to contact Lu Lei. Asking Bright Moon of the Year seemed like a good choice, but Gohan didn't want her to get involved in these things. Putting aside Song Hama and Bright Moon of the Year, there were actually many ways to contact Lu Lei. For example, using Military Governor's account to post a post in the forum was also a good choice. Lu Lei knew that he was Military Governor. As long as he saw Military Governor's post, Lu Lei would know that he had appeared in the game, and Lu Lei would immediately enter the game to contact him. Gohan immediately logged into the game forum. Then, he tragically discovered a problem. His helmet was a very old one, so he couldn't use a SMUF account to post. Because Military Governor's name had been registered in the forum, it was a fake account. Therefore, the official verified Military Governor's account was Gohan's SMUF, Military Governor 250. Only by using this account to post would he be able to attract everyone's attention. However, this old helmet didn't support the use of smurf accounts in the forum. Even if Gohan used his main account to post, he would be directly ignored. There was no way he could attract Lu Lei's attention. Looks like I'll have to break a dungeon record. Gohan could only use his last resort, which was to break a dungeon record. That way, he would be able to receive the treatment of a system broadcast. This way, all the players would naturally know that Military Governor had appeared again. Only then would the news reach Lu Lei's ears as soon as possible. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.